I've worked the kitchens during 3 mating balls now. This year, I volunteered. Not because I'm selfless, because I'm a coward. See, there's something everyone in the Silverpaw Pack knows, but never says out loud. I'm the Alpha's bastard daughter, the one his mistress abandoned on the pack house steps 22 years ago, with a note that said, "She's yours. I want nothing to do with wolf politics." The Luna raised me. Can you imagine? Raising your husband's affair baby? She did it with such grace that it made me hate myself more. Tonight, while the pack's unmated wolves dance under the full moon, hoping the Alpha King will choose them as his Luna Queen, I'll be in the kitchen peeling potatoes. Because that's where bastards belong, that's where I'm safe. What I didn't know was that the Alpha King had been given a prophecy 3 months ago. Your true mate bears the mark of abandonment and hides where the hearth burns. And tonight, he would burn the entire mating ball to the ground to find me. Chapter 1. The King's Refusal. The ballroom fell silent. 200 she-wolves stood in a perfect semicircle, each one more beautiful than the last. Gowns that cost more than most pack members earned in a year. Hair styled by professionals flown in from the capital. Makeup applied with the precision of warriors preparing for battle. Because that's what this was. A battle. The Alpha King stood at the center of the marble floor, his hands clasped behind his back, his expression carved from stone. King Daemon Whitehead had rejected the first 20 she-wolves without even looking at them properly. By the 50th, whispers had started. By the 100th, panic had set in. Now, at she-wolf number 197, the whispers had turned to barely concealed horror. "Your Majesty," Elder Raymond Bryant's voice cracked slightly. He was 300 years old and had presided over 6 mating balls in his lifetime. He'd never seen anything like this. "Perhaps you'd like to take a moment to—" "No." King Daemon's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. "Next." Christina Williams stepped forward. She was the daughter of the Western Ridge Alpha, and by all accounts she was perfect. Strong bloodline, powerful wolf, educated in 3 languages, trained in diplomacy and combat. She curtsied with practiced grace. "Your Majesty, it would be my honor to—" "No. Next." Christina's face went white. And she'd been the favorite to win. Her father had spent a fortune preparing her for this moment. Elder Raymond cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, that was the last eligible she-wolf from the registered packs. If none of these fine young women meet your standards, perhaps we could—" "You're hiding one." The ballroom went deadly silent. King Daemon turned to face the crowd of alphas and lunas gathered along the walls. His silver eyes swept across them with the precision of a predator identifying prey. "I can smell her," he said quietly. "Rosemary and regret. She's here, in this pack house, and you've hidden her from me." Alpha Timothy Solis of the Silverpaw Pack stepped forward. He was a large man, broad-shouldered and confident, with the bearing of someone who'd never been challenged. His Luna, Pamela, stood beside him, and her expression carefully neutral. "Your Majesty," Timothy said, bowing his head respectfully, "I assure you, every eligible she-wolf from my pack is present in this ballroom. There's no one— Don't lie to your king." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Several wolves actually whimpered, their wolves responding to the Alpha command in Daemon's voice. "I have been searching for 3 months," Daemon continued, his voice still quiet, still deadly. "I was told my true mate bears the mark of abandonment, that she hides where the hearth burns, that she smells of rosemary and regret." His eyes locked onto Timothy. "And that she believes herself unworthy." He took a step forward. Every alpha in the room tensed. "So I will ask you one more time, Alpha Solis. Where is the she-wolf you're hiding?" Timothy's jaw worked. Beside him, a Luna Pamela had gone very still, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. "Your Majesty," Timothy said carefully, There is one she-wolf who is not present, but she's not hidden. She's working in the kitchen." Daemon's smile was cold and sharp. "Where the hearth burns. How convenient." He turned to Elder Raymond. "This mating ball is concluded. Every she-wolf here is dismissed with my thanks for their participation." Chaos erupted. She-wolves crying, alphas shouting protests, Lunas whispering frantically. 200 carefully laid plans dissolving in seconds. Daemon ignored it all. He walked toward the ballroom doors, his personal guard falling into formation around him. At the threshold, he paused and looked back at Alpha Timothy. "Bring her to me. Now." "Your Majesty, she's not prepared. She's not dressed for... I don't care if she's covered in flour and potato peelings." Daemon's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Bring me the she-wolf you've been hiding, or I will go get her myself. And Alpha Solis?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "If I have to go get her myself, I'm going to have questions about why you thought it was acceptable to hide a potential mate from your king." Timothy paled. Hiding a she-wolf from the mating ball wasn't just rude, it was technically treason if she turned out to be the king's true mate. "Of course, Your Majesty. Right away." Daemon nodded and walked out of the ballroom, leaving 200 sobbing she-wolves and their furious parents in his wake. In the hallway, his beta, Garrett Montgomery, fell into step beside him. "That went well," Garrett said dryly. I don't have time for politics." Daemon's hands were clenched into fists. 43 days, Garrett. I have 43 days left to find her, make her see her own worth, and complete the bond. Or we both die." The prophecy could be wrong. The Oracle has never been wrong, not in 300 years. Daemon stopped walking and turned to face his oldest friend. "She's here. I can feel it. The bond is pulling me toward the kitchen like a compass pointing north. She's here, Garrett. After 3 months of searching, I finally found her. And she's hiding in the kitchen during the most important night of her life." Garrett's expression was troubled. "That doesn't sound like a she-wolf who thinks she's worthy of being Luna Queen." "No," Daemon agreed quietly. "It sounds exactly like what the Oracle warned me about. She believes herself unworthy. She must choose her own worth, or you will both die bound to a half-broken thing." He started walking again, following the pull in his chest that grew stronger with every step toward the kitchen. 43 days to save us both," he muttered. "And she doesn't even know I exist." Meanwhile, 3 floors below, I was elbow-deep in dishwater and completely oblivious to the chaos I'd just caused. The kitchen was always hottest during mating balls. 6 ovens running at full capacity, steam rising from massive pots of soup, the hearth fire roaring to keep the bread warm. I'd stopped noticing the heat years ago, just like I'd stopped noticing a lot of things. "Lyra, we need more wine in the ballroom," Flora Bailey called from across the kitchen. She was the head cook, but a woman who'd been running these kitchens since before I was born. "Take up 3 bottles of the Silverleaf vintage." "I can't go up there," I said automatically, scrubbing harder at the pot in my hands. "I'm not dressed for—" "Girl, no one's going to be looking at you. They're all watching the king reject every eligible she-wolf in the territory." Flora's laugh was sharp. "Never seen anything like it. 200 beautiful young women, and he's said no to every single one." My hands stilled in the dishwater. "Everyone? Every single one?" Flora shook her head. "Poor things are sobbing into their champagne. Their mamas are having conniptions, and the king just keeps saying next, like he's reviewing paperwork instead of potential mates." Something uncomfortable twisted in my chest. I told myself it was sympathy for those she-wolves. It definitely wasn't anything else. "Maybe he's waiting for his true mate," I offered, returning to my scrubbing. "Maybe none of them are right." "Maybe he's insane," Flora countered. "Those were the finest she-wolves in the kingdom, Lyra. If none of them were good enough, then who—" The kitchen door slammed open. Alpha Timothy stood in the doorway, and the expression on his face made my blood run cold. Behind him were Luna Pamela and 3 pack guards. Everyone in the kitchen froze. "Lyra," Timothy said, and his voice was strange, tight, almost afraid. "You need to come with me, now." The pot slipped from my hands and crashed into the sink, sending dishwater splashing everywhere. "Sir, I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" "The Alpha King has requested your presence," Luna Pamela said. Her voice was perfectly controlled, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands were clasped too tightly. "Immediately." The kitchen spun. "The Alpha King? Requesting me? There must be some mistake, I said, my voice coming out smaller than I intended. I'm nobody, I'm just— Don't argue. Timothy's voice carried alpha command, and my body responded before my mind caught up, taking a step toward him. We don't have time. The king is waiting. Flora was staring at me with wide eyes. The other kitchen staff had all backed away, creating a circle of space around me like I was suddenly dangerous. I looked down at myself. Flour-dusted apron, sleeves rolled up to my elbows, hands red and raw from dishwater, hair falling out of its bun. I smelled like rosemary from the bread I'd been making earlier, and probably like sweat from the heat of the kitchen. This couldn't be happening. I need to change, I said desperately. I need to— There's no time. Pamela's voice was gentler than I'd heard in years. Just come with us, Lyra. It's going to be all right. But the look in her eyes said she didn't believe that at all. They escorted me through the servants' hallways, away from the main pack house where guests might see me in my shameful state. I could hear crying coming from the ballroom as we passed, the sound of 200 broken dreams. We emerged into a small receiving room I'd never been allowed in before, and there, standing by the window with his back to us, was the Alpha King. I'd never seen him in person before. He was taller than I expected, broader. Power radiated from him in waves that made my knees weak. His dark hair was slightly too long, like he couldn't be bothered with regular trims. His shoulders were tense under his formal jacket. Your Majesty, Timothy said, bowing low, may I present— Leave us. The command in those two words made everyone except me move immediately toward the door. Even Alpha Timothy, and Alpha himself, obeyed without question. Luna Pamela paused at the threshold, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Then she was gone, and the door clicked shut. I was alone with the Alpha King. He still hadn't turned around. What's your name? He asked quietly. Lyra. My voice came out as barely a whisper. I cleared my throat and tried again. Just Lyra, Your Majesty. I'm nobody important. He went very still. Then, slowly, he turned to face me. His eyes were silver, not gray, not light blue. Silver, like moonlight made solid. But they fixed on me with an intensity that made me want to simultaneously run away and step closer. That's one, he said softly. One what, Your Majesty? But he didn't answer. He just stood there, staring at me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve, while I tried very hard not to collapse under the weight of his attention. Finally, he spoke again. You smell like rosemary. I blinked. Yes, Your Majesty. I was making bread earlier. The kitchen— 43 days, he interrupted, still in that quiet, measured voice. That's how long I'm giving you. For what, Your Majesty? His smile was sad and a little bit broken. To figure out that you're not nobody. Chapter 2. The Prophecy. 3 months earlier. The Oracle lived in a cave at the edge of the kingdom, where the forest grew so thick that sunlight barely penetrated the canopy. Damon had ridden for 3 days to reach her, leaving his guards at the forest's edge. The Oracle only spoke to those who came alone. She was waiting for him at the cave entrance. At 300 years old, Judith Hawley looked like time itself had forgotten her. Her eyes were milky white, sightless. But Damon had the uncomfortable sensation that she saw far more than he did. Alpha King, she said, her voice like dry leaves rustling. You've come seeking answers about your mate. It wasn't a question. Yes, Damon dismounted, approaching her slowly. I'm 30 years old. I've met thousands of she-wolves. None of them have triggered the mate bond. Yet the council is pressuring me to choose politically, but you want what your parents had. The Oracle's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. True mate bond, the kind that transcends politics and power. Yes. Come inside. The cave was deeper than it appeared from outside. The Oracle led him through winding passages lit by phosphorescent moss until they reached a chamber with a pool of perfectly still water at its center. Sit, she commanded. Damon sat on the smooth stone floor. The Oracle settled across from him, her blind eyes fixed on his face. I have seen 3 visions in my lifetime, King Daemon, she said. The first foretold the Great War. The second predicted your father's death. Do you know what the third vision showed me? No. You. And the she-wolf who will either save you or destroy you both. Daemon's breath caught. Tell me. The oracle was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice had changed, deeper, resonant, as if something ancient was speaking through her. Your true mate bears the mark of abandonment. She hides where the hearth burns. She believes herself unworthy of love, of pack, of belonging. You will know her by 3 signs. She will smell of rosemary and regret. She will have hands that have served but never been served, and she will refuse you 3 times before she accepts. Daemon leaned forward. Where is she? What pack? That is not for me to say. You must search. But hear me well, King Daemon. The oracle's voice turned sharp. If you claim her before she claims herself, the bond will poison you both. She must choose her own worth, or you will both die bound to a half-broken thing. I don't understand. The mark of abandonment is not physical. It is how she carries herself in the world, like she is apologizing for existing, like she is waiting for permission to take up space, like she has been left behind by everyone who should have chosen her, so now she hides before they can leave her again. The words settled into Daemon's chest like stones. He'd met wolves like that, broken by their packs, by their families, wolves who'd internalized their pain so deeply they couldn't recognize their own worth. How do I help her see herself differently? You cannot do it for her. You can only witness her journey and refuse to let her hide from you. The oracle's expression softened slightly. You have until the winter solstice, 60 days from now. And if the bond is not completed by midnight on that day, it will begin to kill you both. Slowly at first, then faster. You will have perhaps a week beyond that, before the damage becomes irreversible. 60 days, 2 months to find her, help her heal a lifetime of wounds, and complete the mate bond. And if I fail? Then the kingdom loses its king, and she loses the only person who could have shown her she was never broken in the first place. You will both die alone, wondering what might have been. Daemon stood, his jaw set. I won't fail. Everyone says that. The oracle tilted her head. But King Daemon, this will be the hardest thing you've ever done. Watching someone you love destroy themselves with self-hatred while being unable to simply tell them the truth. That is a special kind of torture. Why can't I just tell her about the prophecy? Because if she accepts you to fulfill a prophecy, rather than because she believes she deserves to be chosen, the bond will be built on obligation, not truth. And obligation cannot sustain a mate bond. It will fracture, and the fracture will kill you both. Daemon nodded slowly. Rosemary and regret. Hands that serve. Hides where the hearth burns. 3 refusals before acceptance. And the mark of abandonment, the oracle added. That is the most important sign. Look for the she-wolf who makes herself invisible, who apologizes for taking up space, who serves everyone but never asks for anything in return. She stood, indicating the audience was over. One more thing, King Daemon. The prophecy has 2 possible endings. In one, you both live and rule together, healing each other's wounds. In the other, you both die bound to broken things, unable to save yourselves or each other. Which ending comes to pass depends entirely on whether she can learn to choose herself. And if she can't? The oracle's smile was sad. Then you'll die loving a ghost who never believed she was real. Daemon had left the cave with more questions than answers, but he had his signs: rosemary and regret, hands that serve, hearth. For 3 months, he'd searched. He'd visited every pack in the kingdom, walking through their territories, attending their gatherings, searching for that scent, for those signs. And every night, as he lay alone in whatever guest quarters his hosts had provided, he'd counted down the days. 60 days became 40, 40 became 20, 20 became 10. And still, nothing. The council had started making noise about political matches, about the kingdom needing stability. about how a king without a Luna was vulnerable. Garrett had suggested he choose someone practical, someone strong. The mate bond isn't everything, his beta had said. Kings have ruled without it before. But Daemon couldn't. Not when he knew she was out there somewhere, believing herself unworthy, hiding from a bond that could save them both. 7 days ago, with 53 days left on the prophecy's countdown, he'd received an invitation to the Silverpaw Pack's mating ball. He'd almost declined. He'd already visited Silverpaw twice in his searches, walked through their territory, met with Alpha Timothy Solus. Nothing. But something had made him accept, some instinct he couldn't name, and now, standing in this receiving room, staring at a she-wolf covered in flour with rosemary-scented bread clinging to her clothes, her hands red and raw from years of kitchen work, her entire posture screaming, "I don't belong here, I'm sorry for existing," Daemon knew. He'd found her. His true mate was standing in front of him, apologizing for being nobody important. That's one refusal, he thought. 2 more to go. The Alpha King was staring at me. I'd been standing in this receiving room for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, and he hadn't said anything beyond 43 days and, "You're not nobody." I didn't know what to do with my hands. They were still damp from dishwater, and I kept wanting to wipe them on my apron, but that felt even more inappropriate than everything else about this situation. Your Majesty," I tried again. "I think there's been a mistake. I'm not... You're Alpha Timothy's daughter." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Not exactly, Your Majesty. I'm... complicated." His eyebrow raised slightly. It was the first expression I'd seen on his face beyond that sad smile. "Complicated how?" "My mother left me on the packhouse steps when I was a baby. There was a note saying I belonged to Alpha Timothy, that she wanted nothing to do with wolf politics." The words came out flat, rehearsed. I'd told this story so many times it had stopped hurting, or maybe I'd just gotten better at pretending it didn't hurt. Luna Pamela raised me anyway, out of the kindness of her heart. "And where is your mother now?" "I don't know. She never came back." King Daemon was quiet for a moment, studying me with those unsettling silver eyes. "Do you know why I rejected 200 she-wolves tonight?" The question caught me off guard. "Because none of them were right?" "Because none of them were you." The room tilted. I grabbed the back of a nearby chair to steady myself. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Your Majesty, I'm nobody. I'm a kitchen worker. I'm a bastard who was abandoned. I'm not... That's 2. 2 what? 2 times you've told me you're nobody." His voice was gentle, but there was steel underneath it. "I'm counting, Lyra. And when you hit 3, we're going to have a very different conversation." I stared at him, completely lost. "I don't understand what's happening." "I know you don't." He took a step closer, and I had to fight the urge to step back. "But I need you to trust me." "Oh, can you do that?" "I don't know you." "That's fair." Another step closer. "So let me tell you something true, and you can decide if I'm trustworthy. 3 months ago, I was told I had 60 days to find my true mate, or we would both die. I've spent those 3 months searching every pack in this kingdom, and tonight, with 43 days left, I walked into a mating ball and knew immediately that my mate wasn't in that ballroom. She was hiding in the kitchen, covered in flour, smelling like rosemary, with hands scarred from years of serving others. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "That's not possible," I said again, but my voice wavered. "Why not?" "Because I stopped myself just in time." "Nobody?" he finished softly. "That's 3, Lyra. And now we're going to have that different conversation." He moved so quickly I didn't have time to react. One moment he was 3 feet away, the next he was right in front of me, his hands cupping my face, forcing me to look at him. "Listen to me very carefully," he said, his voice low and intense. "You are not nobody. You are not a mistake. You are not unworthy. Those are lies that have been carved into you so deeply you can't see the truth anymore. But I see it. I see you." Tears were burning in my eyes. I blinked them back furiously. You don't know me, I whispered. Then let me know you. Give me these 43 days. Let me show you what I see when I look at you. And if you're wrong? If I really am nobody? His smile was sad again. Then we'll both die at the winter solstice, and the kingdom will need a new king. But Lyra? I'm not wrong. The Oracle has never been wrong in 300 years, and she told me exactly where to find you. The Oracle? My voice came out as a squeak. There's a prophecy. He released my face but caught my hands instead, his thumbs tracing the scars on my knuckles. About you and me. About how we're supposed to save each other. But it only works if you choose it. If you choose yourself first. I don't understand any of this. I know. And I can't explain it all right now because there are rules about what I can and can't tell you. But I need you to make a choice. His silver eyes held mine. Will you stay here at the pack house and let me court you properly? Let me show you who you really are. Court me. The Alpha King wanted to court me. This had to be a dream. Or a nightmare. I couldn't tell which. What about Alpha Timothy? A Luna Pamela, the pack? What about them? They won't approve. I'm not. If you say nobody one more time, I'm going to do something wildly inappropriate, he warned. Like what? Like kiss you in front of your entire pack to prove a point. My face went hot. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other. His hands were still holding mine, warm and steady. I could feel calluses on his palms, a warrior's hands, not soft, noble hands. It was oddly comforting. 43 days, I said slowly. And then what? And then either we complete the mate bond, or we both die. Those are the only two options. That's insane. Yes, he agreed. But it's also true. So what do you say, Lyra? Will you give me 43 days to prove you're not nobody? I should say no. Should run back to the kitchen where it was safe, where I knew my place. Where I didn't have to face impossible things like Alpha Kings and prophecies and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't broken after all. But when I opened my mouth, what came out was, okay. His smile transformed his entire face. For the first time since I'd met him 5 minutes ago, he looked young, happy, hopeful. Okay, he repeated. Good, that's good. He squeezed my hands once and released them. Now we need to establish some ground rules. Rules? I can't tell you everything about the prophecy. Some things you have to figure out yourself or it won't work. But I can court you. I can spend time with you. I can show you what I see when I look at you. And you, he paused, you have to promise me you won't hide. No running back to the kitchen every time this gets hard. No making yourself invisible. Can you promise me that? Could I? Every instinct I had screamed at me to hide, to apologize, to get out of the way before someone realized I didn't belong. But something else, something small and stubborn that I'd thought was dead years ago, whispered, what if he's right? I'll try, I said. That's all I'm asking. There was a knock at the door. Garrett Montgomery, the King's beta, stuck his head in. Your Majesty, Alpha Solus is requesting an audience. He's concerned about the, situation. King Damon sighed. Of course he is. Tell him I'll speak with him shortly. He turned back to me. I need to handle some political cleanup from tonight's disaster, but tomorrow I want to have breakfast with you. Just us. Will you join me? Where? Wherever you're comfortable. Kitchen, gardens, formal dining room. I don't care. I just want to talk to you. The gardens, I heard myself say. At sunrise. It's quiet then. His smile widened. The gardens at sunrise. It's a date. He bowed slightly, an Alpha King bowing to me, and headed for the door. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. Lyra? Thank you for saying yes. You have no idea how long I've been searching for you. Then he was gone, leaving me standing alone in the receiving room, my flour-dusted apron a stark reminder of where I belonged versus where I apparently was now. I sank into the chair I'd been gripping for support. The Alpha King thought I was his true mate. There was a prophecy. We had 43 days, or we both died. And I'd just agreed to let him court me. I was either the luckiest she-wolf in the kingdom or the most delusional. Tomorrow's breakfast would probably tell me which. Chapter 3. 37 Days. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw silver eyes staring at me like I was something precious instead of something discarded. Every time I started to drift off, my brain reminded me that the Alpha King, had told 200 beautiful she-wolves no, and then demanded to see me. Me. Lyra. Nobody. That's 3. His voice echoed in my memory. I gave up on sleep around 4 in the morning and started getting ready for breakfast. Then I stood in front of my tiny closet and realized I had absolutely nothing appropriate to wear to meet a king. My clothes were practical, durable, made for kitchen work and staying out of sight. I had exactly one nice dress, and it was 5 years old and had a stain on the hem that never quite came out. As I was still staring at my pathetic wardrobe when someone knocked softly on my door. "Lyra?" Luna Pamela's voice. "May I come in?" I opened the door, expecting, I didn't know what. Anger? Disappointment? Instead, Pamela stood in the hallway holding a dress bag and a small wooden box, her expression carefully neutral. "I thought you might need something to wear," she said quietly. The dress she pulled out was beautiful, simple, elegant, a soft cream color that would make my skin look less pale. Not too formal, but definitely nicer than anything I'd ever owned. "I can't accept this," I said automatically. Pamela's lips thinned. "Lyra, the Alpha King has declared his intention to court you. You represent this pack now, whether you like it or not. You will not meet him looking like a scullery maid." The words stung, and even though they were true, that's exactly what I was, a scullery maid pretending to be something more. "I don't understand why he wants this," I whispered. "Why me? There were 200— "I don't know." Pamela set the dress on my bed with more force than necessary, "and I don't particularly care. What I care about is that you don't embarrass this pack or yourself. So you will wear this dress. You will be polite. You will be presentable. Am I clear?" "Yes, Luna." She started to leave, then paused at the door. Her back was to me, her shoulders tense. "Lyra, whatever happens with the king, whatever he's told you, be careful. Men in power make promises they don't always keep." Then she was gone, leaving me with a dress I didn't deserve and a warning I didn't know how to interpret. The gardens at sunrise were exactly as beautiful as I remembered from the few times I'd been allowed to walk through them. Dew sparkled on rose petals, birds sang in the ancient oak trees, the air smelled like jasmine and possibility. King Damon was already there, sitting on a stone bench near the fountain. He'd traded his formal jacket for something simpler, just dark pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. It made him look younger, more approachable. He stood when he saw me, and something in his expression made my breath catch. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "It's Luna Pamela's dress." I wasn't talking about the dress. Heat crept up my neck. I didn't know what to do with compliments. They felt like traps. "I brought breakfast." He gestured to a basket on the bench. "Nothing fancy, just bread, cheese, fruit." "I thought we could talk without servants hovering." We settled on the bench, the basket between us like a small barrier. I was grateful for it. I didn't know what to do with the way my skin felt too tight whenever he looked at me. "Tell me about yourself," he said, tearing off a piece of bread. "Where did you grow up? What do you like? What are your dreams?" The questions felt impossible. "I grew up here, in the Silverpaw Pack House. And? That's it. I work in the kitchens. I've worked there since I was old enough to hold a spoon." He was quiet for a moment. "What do you do for fun?" Fun? The word felt foreign. "I read sometimes. When the kitchens close for the night, Flora Bailey lets me borrow her books." What kind of books? History, mostly. Stories about the old Pax before the kingdom was unified. About the wars and the treaties and... I trailed off, realizing how boring I sounded. I'm sorry. You probably don't want to hear about... I asked, didn't I? His voice was gentle. I want to hear everything. Don't apologize for having interests. But I did apologize. I apologized for everything. For taking up space, for breathing too loud, for existing in ways that might inconvenience others. It was so deeply ingrained, I didn't even notice anymore, except King Damon noticed. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened every time I said sorry. Tell me about the wars, he said. Which period interests you most? And somehow, impossibly, we fell into conversation. He asked questions that made me think, challenged my interpretations of historical events, shared his own perspectives from records I'd never had access to. An hour passed, yet then 2. I forgot to be nervous, forgot to apologize, forgot for just a little while that I was supposed to be nobody. You're smart, he said suddenly, in the middle of my explanation of the Treaty of Silver Creek. Really smart. Has anyone ever told you that? No. The word came out before I could stop it. Why not? Because I'm not. I just read books. Anyone can read books. But not everyone can analyze them the way you do. Not everyone can see the patterns, make the connections. He leaned forward. Lyra, you have a brilliant mind. Do you know that? I looked down at my hands, at the scars from years of kitchen work. I'm a scullery maid who reads when she's supposed to be sleeping. That's not the same as being smart. That's exactly what being smart is. Curiosity, drive, refusing to let circumstances limit your mind even when they limit everything else. His hand covered mine briefly. You've been teaching yourself from borrowed books while working 12-hour days in a hot kitchen. That's not just smart, Lyra. That's extraordinary. The words settled into my chest like warm stones. I wanted to believe them. Wanted to believe that maybe I was more than hands that scrubbed pots and stayed out of the way. Why are you doing this? I asked quietly. The prophecy says you have to find your mate, but it doesn't say you have to be nice to her. His laugh was surprised and genuine. You think I'm being nice? Aren't you? No, I'm being honest. He stood, offering me his hand. Come, I want to show you something. I took his hand. His palm was warm against mine, calloused from sword work. Then we walked deeper into the gardens, past the formal flower beds into a section that had been allowed to grow wild. My mother planted this section, he said, before she died. She said formal gardens were beautiful, but wild gardens were alive. She wanted a place that grew however it wanted, without anyone telling it what shape to take. We stopped in a clearing filled with wildflowers, blues and purples and yellows all tangled together in chaotic beauty. She sounds wonderful, I said. She was, and she would have liked you. She didn't even know me. She would have liked that you question things, that you don't just accept what people tell you about yourself. He turned to face me. Lyra, can I ask you something personal? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Why do you believe you're nobody? Who told you that? The question hit like a physical blow. I opened my mouth, closed it, tried again. Nobody had to tell me, I finally said. My own mother left me on a doorstep. She didn't want me enough to keep me. That's not something people do to children they value. Your mother was running from something. How do you know that? Because people don't abandon babies unless they're desperate or afraid. And you said the note mentioned wolf politics. She wasn't abandoning you, Lyra. She was trying to save you from something. The words rearranged something in my chest. I'd never thought about it that way. Never considered that maybe my mother left me because she loved me, not because she didn't. That doesn't change anything, I said. I'm still a bastard, still proof of Alpha Timothy's infidelity. Oh, Luna Pamela has been nothing but kind, but I see it in her eyes sometimes. The pain. Every time she looks at me, she remembers that her mate broke their bond. Have you ever asked her about it? No. It would be cruel. Crueler than spending 22 years believing you're the embodiment of someone else's pain? He stepped closer. Lyra, You've built your entire identity around being unwanted. But what if that story isn't true? What if you've been carrying shame that was never yours to carry? I couldn't breathe. The garden suddenly felt too small, too close. I need to go back, I said. The kitchens. You don't work in the kitchens anymore. What? I spoke with Alpha Timothy this morning. You're relieved of kitchen duties for the duration of my stay. You're to focus on— No. The word came out sharper than I intended. No, you can't do that. The kitchen is where I belong. It's where I'm useful. If you take that away, you'll have to find other ways to be useful. He caught my hands when I tried to turn away. Lyra, you're more than your usefulness. You're more than what you can provide others. You're allowed to just be. I don't know how to do that. I know. That's what these 43 days are for, learning. His thumbs traced circles on the backs of my hands. But we're down to 37 now, so we need to make them count. 37? My voice cracked. What happens in 37 days? Winter solstice, the deadline the oracle gave us. He released one of my hands but kept the other, lacing our fingers together. At midnight on the solstice, it's either the mate bond completes or it starts killing us both. And how do we complete it? You have to choose yourself first. Choose to believe you're worthy. And then— He paused. Then you have to choose me. Not because of a prophecy, not because you feel obligated, but because you actually want to. And if I can't— His smile was sad— then I'll die knowing I met the most extraordinary she-wolf in the kingdom, and she never realized her own worth. And you'll die believing you were nobody when you were always everything. We stood there in the wild garden, hands linked, while the weight of 37 days pressed down on both of us. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered. You don't have to know. You just have to try. He lifted our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my scarred knuckles. One day at a time, Lyra. Starting with today. Can you give me today? I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the hope in his silver eyes. At the way he held my hand like it was something precious, instead of something scarred and rough from dishwater. Yes, I said. I can give you today. Then that's enough. He smiled. For now, that's enough. We spent the rest of the morning walking through the gardens. He told me about the kingdom, about his responsibilities as king, about the pressures and the politics and the loneliness of power. I told him about books I'd read, about the history of the Pax, about small, safe things that didn't require me to talk about myself. But gradually, carefully, he coaxed more out of me. Favorite foods. Memories from childhood before I understood what bastard meant. In dreams I'd had, and then carefully buried, because dreams were dangerous for people like me. By the time the sun reached its peak, I'd told him more about myself than I'd told anyone in years. I should let you rest, he said finally, but I want to see you again. Tomorrow. Same time? I don't know what we'll talk about. I've already told you everything interesting. Then we'll talk about uninteresting things, or we'll sit in silence. I don't care. I just want to be near you. The words made something flutter in my chest, something dangerous and hopeful and terrifying. Okay, I said. Tomorrow. He walked me back to the pack house, still holding my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. At the servants' entrance, he finally released me. Lyra, he said as I reached for the door, you asked earlier why I'm being nice. It's not because I have to. It's because spending time with you is the best part of my day. So thank you for giving me today. Then he bowed, still bowing to me, still treating me like I was someone who deserved respect, and walked away. I stood at the servants' entrance for a long time, watching him go, his words echoing in my head. The best part of my day. Nobody had ever said that about me before. And terrifyingly, impossibly, I was starting to believe him. If you've ever felt like you had to earn your place in someone's life, please subscribe if you haven't. To join others who know your worth isn't based on what you can give. Because the ones who hide their light aren't weak, they just haven't found their stage yet. Chapter 4. 34 days. 3 days. Damon had spent 3 days courting Lyra, and he was absolutely certain of 2 things. First, she was brilliant, funny, and everything he'd hoped for in a mate. Second, she had absolutely no idea how extraordinary she was. Every morning they met in the gardens at sunrise. Every morning she wore another borrowed dress and apologized for taking up his time. Every morning he watched her slowly unfold like a flower that had been kept in darkness too long. But they were running out of time. 34 days left. The mate bond should have started forming by now, at least the preliminary stages. He should feel a constant awareness of her emotions, a pull toward her even when they were apart. Instead, he felt nothing beyond the normal attraction and the desperate certainty that she was his mate. The bond wasn't forming because she didn't believe she deserved it. "You're brooding," Garrett said, finding him in the Alpha's study that Timothy had graciously provided. "That's never a good sign." She called herself a burden this morning. Garrett winced. Ouch! We were talking about her birthday, which she didn't even know the exact date of, by the way. Luna Pamela told her it was sometime in spring but never celebrated it. And Lyra said, "Well, I suppose they didn't want to make a fuss over a burden." Damon's hands clenched into fists. She said it so casually, Garrett, like it was a simple fact instead of a devastating indictment of how she's been treated her entire life. "What did you say?" "I told her she wasn't a burden. She smiled like I was being polite and changed the subject." Garrett settled into a chair across from him. You can't logic someone out of beliefs that weren't formed by logic in the first place. She spent 22 years learning to make herself small. You've had 3 days to try to change that. Give it time." "We don't have time. 34 days, Garrett. Just over a month. If the bond doesn't start forming soon..." A knock interrupted him. One of Timothy's pack members entered, looking nervous. "Your Majesty, there's a woman at the gates requesting to see Alpha Timothy. She says..." The guard paused. "She says she's Lyra's mother." The room went cold. "What?" Damon was on his feet before he'd made the conscious decision to stand. "When did she arrive?" "Just now, Your Majesty. She's demanding entry. Says she has information about Lyra that the Alpha needs to hear." Damon and Garrett exchanged looks. "Get Alpha Timothy," Damon ordered. "And Garrett, find Lyra. Keep her away from the gates until we know what's happening." I was in the library, a room I'd never been allowed to use before, but King Damon had gotten permission from Alpha Timothy for me to access it. I'd spent the last hour reading everything I could find about mate bonds, trying to understand what was happening to me. The books described it as instant recognition, a pull so strong it was undeniable, the sense of your soul finding its other half. I felt something when I was near King Damon. My heart raced. My skin felt too tight. I thought about him constantly. But was that a mate bond? Or was it just normal attraction to someone impossibly handsome and kind who, for reasons I couldn't fathom, seemed to actually like spending time with me? "Lyra." I looked up to find Garrett Montgomery in the doorway. The King's beta looked tense. "Yes?" "The King wants you to stay in the pack house for a while. Don't go outside." "Why? What's wrong?" Garrett hesitated. "There's a situation. Nothing for you to worry about. Just stay inside, okay?" But the way he said it made worry bloom in my chest anyway. I set down my book and followed him into the hallway, ignoring his protests. We could hear raised voices coming from Alpha Timothy's office. "My daughter! And I have a right to see her!" A woman's voice, unfamiliar, but somehow achingly familiar at the same time. "You gave up that right 22 years ago when you left her on my doorstep." Alpha Timothy's voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. "You don't get to walk back in now and make demands." "I'm not making demands. I'm offering information." "About what?" King Damon's voice now. Hard, dangerous. "About who Lyra really is. About why I left her. About the people who are looking for her." My blood went cold. Before Garrett could stop me, I pushed open the office door. 3 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Alpha Timothy looked furious. King Damon looked worried. And the woman? She was beautiful. That was my first thought. Beautiful in a way that made my chest ache because I saw pieces of myself in her face. The same dark hair, the same gray eyes, the same small scar above the left eyebrow that I'd always wondered about. "Lyra," she breathed. "Don't." I didn't recognize my own voice. It came out cold, flat. "You don't get to say my name like that, like you know me, like you have any right." I know this is a shock. A shock? Something inside me cracked open. 22 years of buried hurt came pouring out. You left me on a doorstep. You walked away and never came back. And now you show up here what? Because the Alpha King is courting me? Because suddenly I'm worth something? That's not why I'm here. Then why? The woman, my mother, though I refuse to think of her that way, looked at Alpha Timothy. "May I speak with her? Alone?" "Absolutely not," King Daemon said before Timothy could answer. "Anything you have to say can be said in front of all of us." My mother's jaw tightened. "Fine. Lyra, I left you here to protect you. Someone paid me to disappear with you, offered me enough money to start a new life far from pack politics. But I knew if I took you and ran, they'd hunt us both. So I left you somewhere safe, somewhere they'd never think to look." "Who paid you?" I asked. "And why?" "I don't know who. Or the money came through intermediaries. But I know why. Because of your bloodline. Because of who your father really is." Alpha Timothy made a strangled sound. "I am her father." "No." My mother's voice was gentle but firm. "You were my cover story, the Alpha who'd taken me as a mistress, who'd had an affair. I let everyone believe it because it kept Lyra safe. But Timothy, you never touched me. We both know that." The room went absolutely silent. "Then who—" I couldn't finish the sentence. My mother looked at me with something like pity. "Your father was a warrior from the Northern Ridge Pack, a good man who I loved very much. And he died 3 months before you were born, killed by wolves who wanted to eliminate his bloodline." "Why would anyone want to eliminate his bloodline?" "Because he was a direct descendant of the first Alpha, the original pack leader before the kingdom fractured, and that makes you—" "Stop!" King Daemon's voice cut through like a blade. "This is too convenient. You show up now after 22 years with a story about royal bloodlines and assassination plots, right when Lyra is being courted by the Alpha King?" "I know how it sounds," my mother said, "but 3 days ago I received another message from the same people who paid me the first time. They know where Lyra is. They know the Alpha King is here, and they're offering me triple what they paid before if I bring her to them." "And you came here to warn us?" I heard the skepticism in King Daemon's voice. "I came here to warn her, because I made a mistake 22 years ago. I took the money and ran instead of fighting for my daughter. I've lived with that shame every day since." My mother's eyes met mine. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Lyra. I don't deserve it. But I won't make the same mistake twice. They're coming for you, and you need to be ready." My legs gave out. I grabbed the edge of Timothy's desk to keep from falling. "This is insane," I whispered. "I'm nobody, I'm just—" "You're the last living descendant of the first Alpha," my mother interrupted, "which means you have a legitimate claim to challenge the current power structure, to unite the fractured packs under original bloodline authority. Do you understand? You're not nobody, Lyra. You're potentially the most dangerous she-wolf in the kingdom." I looked at King Daemon. He'd gone very still, his expression unreadable. "Did you know?" I asked him. "Is that why you really want me?" "Because of some bloodline?" "No." The word was immediate and fierce. "I knew you were my mate because of the Oracle's prophecy. I don't give a damn about your bloodline." "But you're the king. If I'm a threat to your power—" "You're not a threat. You're my mate." He crossed to me, taking my shoulders gently. "Lyra, look at me. I don't care if you're descended from the first Alpha or from a line of rogues. I care about you. Just you." I wanted to believe him, but the timing was too perfect, too suspicious. "I need air," I said, pulling away from him. "I need to think." "Lyra, please." I looked at all of them. King Daemon, Alpha Timothy, Garrett, my mother. "I just need a minute. Alone." I fled before anyone could stop me. I didn't go far. Just to the servants' stairwell, the narrow space I'd spent years using to stay out of sight. I sat on the cold stone steps and tried to process what I'd just learned. I wasn't Timothy's daughter. My real father was dead. I was descended from the first Alpha, which apparently made me important and dangerous and wanted by people who'd killed my father. And my mother, the woman who'd abandoned me, had been paid to do it, paid to disappear, paid again to bring me back to whoever wanted me dead. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. The door above me opened. I looked up, expecting King Damon or maybe Flora. Instead, Luna Pamela stood there, her expression softer than I'd ever seen it. "May I sit?" she asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She settled on the step beside me with a sigh. I wondered when this day would come. "You knew." It wasn't a question. "Not everything. But I knew you weren't Timothy's daughter." Your mother came to us desperate, terrified, begging for protection. She said people were hunting her, that they'd killed her mate and were coming for her baby. Timothy and we made a deal with her. She'd claim the baby was his. I'd raise you, and in exchange, we'd keep you safe." "Why would you do that? Why would you agree to raise another woman's child?" Pamela was quiet for a long moment. "Because I couldn't have children of my own. We'd tried for years. Every healer in the kingdom told us the same thing. My womb was damaged. I'd never carry to term." The words hit me like a physical blow. I didn't know. No one did. We kept it quiet. An Alpha and Luna without an heir. It creates instability. So when your mother appeared with her offer, it seemed like the perfect solution. We'd protect you, raise you as pack, and no one would question why the Alpha's bastard was living in the pack house. But you didn't raise me like I was yours. You kept me at a distance. "I know," Pamela's voice cracked. "And I'm sorry for that, Lyra. I thought if I got too close, if I let myself love you like a daughter, it would hurt more when the truth came out. When whoever was hunting you finally found you. So I kept you safe but separate. I gave you everything except what you needed most. Which was? Permission to belong." She took my hand, the first time she'd voluntarily touched me in years. "I made you feel like a burden when you were a gift. I made you hide when you should have been celebrated. And I'm sorrier than you'll ever know." Tears were streaming down my face. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because that young king downstairs is right about you. You're extraordinary, Lyra. And you deserve to know that before whoever's coming for you arrives. You deserve to know that for 22 years, you were protected by people who cared, even if we did a terrible job of showing it." I couldn't speak, could barely breathe through the tears. Pamela pulled me into a hug, the first real embrace she'd ever given me. "I don't know what the Alpha King sees when he looks at you, but I know what I see. A young woman who survived being told she was nothing and somehow remained kind, remained curious, remained gentle in a world that was harsh to her." "I don't feel extraordinary," I whispered into her shoulder. "I feel terrified." "Good. That means you're smart." She pulled back, and wiping tears from my face with her thumbs. "Now, what are you going to do about the king?" "I don't know. What if he only wants me because of my bloodline?" "What if he wants you in spite of it?" Pamela countered. "Lyra, that man rejected 200 eligible she-wolves before he'd even met you. Do you really think bloodline politics motivated that?" "Then what did? Why don't you ask him?" She stood, offering me her hand. "You have 34 days to figure out if you can trust him, but you're not going to find answers hiding in a stairwell." She was right. I knew she was right. I took her hand and let her pull me to my feet. "Pamela," I said as we reached the door, "thank you. For protecting me, for keeping me safe, even when it cost you." Her smile was sad but genuine. "You're welcome. Now go talk to your king before he wears a hole in Timothy's floor from pacing." I found King Damon exactly where Pamela predicted, pacing in Timothy's office. He stopped when he saw me, relief flooding his features. "Lyra." "Walk with me?" I interrupted. Please? We walked back to the gardens in silence. The sun was setting now, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. It was beautiful and strange and felt like the end of something, or maybe the beginning. I'm sorry, I said when we reached the wild garden, for running, for not trusting you. You don't need to apologize for having a normal reaction to impossible news. Do you care? I asked bluntly. About my bloodline? Honestly? Please. It complicates things. If you're really descended from the first Alpha, now there are going to be political factions who want to use you, others who want to eliminate you. The kingdom has been stable under my family's rule for 3 generations, and some won't like the idea of a competing claim to authority. He stepped closer. But Lyra, I would give up the crown tomorrow if it meant I could have you, because you're my mate, because in 34 days, if we don't complete the bond, we both die, and I would rather die than spend the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. That's dramatic. It's true. We stood there as the sun set, 2 people caught in prophecy and politics and impossible choices. My mother is downstairs, I said quietly, waiting to see if I'll talk to her. What should I do? What do you want to do? I want to hate her for leaving me, but I also want answers. And maybe... I paused. Maybe I want to know if she ever regretted it. Then talk to her. Ask your questions. Get your answers. He took my hand. But Lyra? Whatever you learn, whatever she tells you, it doesn't change who you are. You're not defined by your bloodline or your mother's choices. You're defined by you, by the person you chose to become despite everything. And who is that? His smile was soft. That's what these 34 days are for, figuring it out together. Chapter 5, 28 Days. I met with my mother the next morning in a small sitting room that Luna Pamela had arranged. Neutral territory, private enough for difficult conversations. Her name was Vicky Gutierrez. She told me this like it was information I should have always known, and maybe I should have. Maybe I should have spent the last 22 years knowing my own mother's name. You look like him, she said softly, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. Your father. You have his eyes, his stubbornness. Tell me about him. So she did. His name had been Leo Chambers, a warrior from the Northern Ridge Pack, descended from a bloodline that traced directly back to the first Alpha. He'd been kind, fierce, protective. He'd loved her despite the danger it put them both in. There are wolves who believe the kingdom should never have been unified under a single royal family, Vicky explained. They believe the original pack structure, multiple alphas, equal power, was better, stronger, and they see anyone descended from the first Alpha as a potential rallying point for that old way of life. So they killed him. They made it look like a border dispute, a rogue attack. But I knew. I was pregnant with you, and I knew if they found out Leo had a child, they'd come for us both. Her voice cracked. I ran. I changed my name. I hid. But they found me anyway when you were 3 months old. That's when they offered me the money. Disappear completely, take the baby far away, and they'd let us live. But you didn't take me with you. I couldn't. Tears streamed down her face. Lyra, I wanted to. But they were watching. If I'd run with you, they would have tracked us both. So I made a deal with Alpha Timothy and Luna Pamela. Left you somewhere they'd never think to look, hidden in plain sight as an Alpha's bastard. The shame of it meant no one would look too closely at you. No one would question your bloodline. The logic was cold, brutal, and probably saved my life. Why come back now? Because they know. Vicky's hands shook. 3 days ago, someone contacted me, said they knew about you, knew about the Alpha King courting you, knew that if you completed a mate bond with the king, you'd have the power and protection to be dangerous. So they offered me money to bring you to them before that could happen. And you came here to warn me instead. I came here because I've spent 22 years living with my choice. 22 years wondering if you were safe, if you were happy, if you hated me. She looked up, meeting my eyes. And when I heard the Alpha King was courting you, I thought maybe you'd finally found someone who could protect you better than I ever could. So yes, I came to warn you, because I won't lose you twice. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Gratitude? Some twisted combination of both? Do you know who they are? I asked. The ones hunting me? I have suspicions. There's a faction called the Silver Circle. Wolves who believe in the old pack structure. They've been working in secret for generations, slowly building power. If they can eliminate you before you become queen, before you have royal protection, they can prevent any challenge to the current order. I don't want to challenge anything, I just want to... I stopped. What did I want? A week ago, I would have said I wanted to work in the kitchens in peace, to stay invisible, to survive. But now I'd spent mornings in gardens with a king who looked at me like I mattered. Now I'd learned I was descended from the first alpha. Now I had 28 days to decide if I was brave enough to choose myself. I need to think, I told Vicky, about all of this. About you. About what happens next. I understand. She stood, setting down her untouched tea. Lyra? I know I don't have the right to ask, but if you could find it in yourself to forgive me someday. I don't know if I can, I said honestly, but I'm glad you told me the truth. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. King Daemon was waiting outside the sitting room when I emerged. But he took one look at my face and pulled me into his arms without a word. I let myself lean into him, let myself accept comfort instead of immediately apologizing for needing it. How did it go? He asked quietly. She loved my father. She was trying to protect me, and there are wolves called the Silver Circle who want me dead before I can become a threat. I pulled back to look at him. So, a normal Tuesday. His smile was brief. We need to talk about security. I know. And we need to accelerate your training. Training in what? Defense? Politics? How to be a queen. His hands framed my face. Lyra, if we complete this bond, you'll be Luna Queen. That comes with responsibilities, dangers. You need to be prepared. I don't know how to be a queen. Neither did I when I took the throne. We'll figure it out together. He kissed my forehead. But first, there's something else we need to address. What? You've been here a week and I haven't taken you on a proper date. I blinked. A date? We're being hunted by a secret faction and running out of time to complete a magical mate bond, and you want to go on a date? Especially because of all that. If we're going to die in 28 days, I'd like to at least take you dancing first. Despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the impossible weight of my new reality, I laughed. I don't know how to dance. Then I'll teach you. His grin was infectious. Tonight, wear something comfortable. And Lyra? He leaned in close. Try to have fun, just for one night. Let's pretend we're normal wolves on a normal date, instead of star-crossed mates racing against prophecy. That evening, the Silverpaw Pack had a small ballroom that they used for celebrations. Daemon had it cleared for the evening, just him and Lyra and a string quartet he'd brought from the capital. She arrived wearing a simple blue dress that made her eyes look like storm clouds. Her hair was loose around her shoulders for the first time since he'd met her. She looked beautiful and terrified in equal measure. It's just us, he assured her. No audience, no pressure, just you and me and some music. I'm going to step on your feet. I'm wearing boots. I'll survive. He led her to the center of the floor and placed her hand on his shoulder, his own hand settling at her waist. The quartet began playing a slow waltz. Follow my lead, he murmured. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. She was stiff at first, counting under her breath, focused on her feet with the same intensity she probably used to study history books. But gradually, she relaxed, started to trust him to guide her. There, he said when she finally looked up from the floor. See, you're dancing. I'm not stepping on you anymore, at least. Progress. He spun her gently, catching her when she stumbled. Lyra, can I ask you something? Of course. What's your favorite memory? From before all this chaos started. She was quiet for a moment, swaying with him to the music. There was a day when I was 8. Luna Pamela had gone to visit another pack, and Alpha Timothy was handling pack business. Flora Bailey let me help make bread. Not just prepare ingredients, but actually make it. Knead the dough, shape the loaves, put them in the oven. Her expression softened with the memory. When they came out, she let me eat one whole loaf by myself, still warm with butter. I sat in the kitchen and ate until my stomach hurt, and Flora just laughed. She told me I looked like a chipmunk storing food for winter. Lyra smiled. It was the first time I felt like maybe I belonged somewhere, even if it was just the kitchen, even if it was just for an afternoon. Damon's chest ached. Her favorite memory was being allowed to eat bread without permission, being allowed to exist without apologizing. "What about you?" she asked. "What's your favorite memory?" "My mother used to sneak me out of the palace," he said, "when the politics got too heavy, when the council meetings ran too long. She'd grab my hand and we'd slip out through the servants' passages. She'd take me to the market in the capital, and we'd walk around like normal wolves, buy roasted nuts from street vendors, watch street performers, just be ordinary for a few hours." "She sounds wonderful." "She was. She died when I was 15, an illness the healers couldn't cure." He spun Lyra again, pulling her closer. "She told me before she died that being king meant carrying the weight of everyone's expectations, but that I should never let that weight crush who I really was underneath it all." "Did you listen?" "I tried, but it's hard to remember who you are when everyone else is telling you who you should be." Lyra met his eyes. "I understand that." He knew she did. They were both people who'd been told they were something other than themselves. Him, told he was only valuable as a king. Her, told she was only valuable when she served others. "What if we made a deal?" he suggested. "For these 28 days, we help each other remember who we really are. Not the king, not the bastard, just Damon and Lyra." "I don't know who Lyra is without all the rest." "Then let's find out together." They danced until the quartet needed rest, until Lyra's feet ached and Damon's formal jacket felt too stifling. They sat on the ballroom floor, sharing wine and talking about everything and nothing. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Lyra said, her cheeks flushed from wine and dancing. "I hate being king sometimes," Damon admitted. "Not the responsibility, but the loneliness. Knowing that most people only see the crown, not the person wearing it. Is that why you searched for a true mate instead of just choosing politically?" "Yes. I wanted someone who would see me, actually see me, flaws and all, and choose me anyway. Not the crown, not the power. Just me." He looked at her. "Your turn. Tell me something you've never told anyone." She was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "Sometimes I'm angry, not sad, not resigned, just furious that I spent my whole life making myself small to make other people comfortable, and then I feel guilty for being angry because at least I had food and shelter and safety. So many wolves have it worse." "Your pain doesn't become invalid just because someone else's is different." "I know. Intellectually, I know that, but knowing something and feeling it are different things." "Yes," he agreed. "They are." They sat in comfortable silence, shoulders touching, watching moonlight stream through the ballroom windows. "Damon?" Her voice was soft. "Thank you for tonight, for reminding me that I can be something other than afraid." He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "Lyra, you were never just afraid. You were always brave. You just didn't recognize it because you thought bravery had to look like fighting instead of surviving." "Is surviving really brave?" "Surviving while remaining kind? While staying curious and gentle in a world that tried to make you hard? That's the bravest thing I've ever seen." She leaned her head on his shoulder, and Damon felt something shift in his chest, not quite the mate bond forming that still required her to choose herself first, but something, a connection, a possibility. 28 days. They had 28 days to turn possibility into reality. He was starting to believe they might actually make it. Late that night, I couldn't sleep. Again. But this time, it wasn't fear keeping me awake. It was the memory of dancing. Of Damon's hand at my waist, his patient voice counting steps, the way he looked at me like I was something precious. I got out of bed and walked to the window. My room overlooked the gardens where we'd spent so many mornings talking. In the moonlight, I could see the wild section his mother had planted. Beautiful chaos, growing however it wanted without anyone telling it what shape to take. A knock on my door startled me. "Lyra?" Flora Bailey's voice. "You awake, girl?" I opened the door to find the old cook holding a tray with tea and cookies. "Thought you might be up," she said, and pushing past me into the room. "You've been dancing on air all evening. Hard to sleep with your head in the clouds." I took the tea gratefully. "Is it that obvious? You smiled at 3 different pack members today without apologizing first. That's practically revolutionary for you." Flora settled into the chair by the window. "The king's good for you, making you remember you're allowed to be happy." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "What if I mess this up? What if I can't be what he needs?" "What if you already are?" Flora countered. "Girl, that man rejected 200 eligible she-wolves. You think he'd do that for someone who wasn't exactly what he needs?" "But I don't know how to be a queen." "You don't have to know everything today. You just have to keep showing up, keep trying. So keep letting yourself believe you might actually deserve good things." She made it sound so simple. Just believe, just choose, just accept that maybe I wasn't broken after all. "Flora, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think my mother did the right thing, leaving me here?" Flora was quiet for a long moment. "I think she did the only thing she could think to do." "Was it right?" "I don't know. But it kept you alive. And now you're here, being courted by a king, discovering you're stronger than you ever knew. So maybe it wasn't wrong, even if it hurt." "I don't know if I can forgive her." "You don't have to decide that tonight, or next week, or even next year. Forgiveness isn't a deadline, girl. It's a journey. Take as long as you need." We sat together in comfortable silence, drinking tea and eating cookies while the moon climbed higher. 28 days, I said finally. "That's all the time we have left. Then don't waste it being afraid. Take the time you've got and fill it with moments worth remembering." Flora stood, collecting the empty tray. "Now get some sleep. The king's going to want to see you at sunrise, and you'll need your energy to keep up with him." She was right. I had 28 days to figure out who Lyra was when she wasn't apologizing for existing. 28 days to decide if I was brave enough to choose myself. 28 days to save both our lives. I fell asleep thinking about dancing, about Damon's patient hands teaching me steps, about the way he looked at me like I was already everything, even when I felt like nothing. And for the first time in my life, I let myself imagine a future where I might actually believe him. Chapter 6. 25 days. The attack came 3 days later, in broad daylight. I was walking through the market with King Damon, our first public outing together. He'd insisted, despite Garrett's protests, that I needed to see the territory beyond the pack house, needed to interact with pack members as something other than invisible kitchen staff. The Silverpaw market was modest, but vibrant. Vendors selling fresh produce, handmade crafts, medicinal herbs, pack members going about their daily business, most of them stopping to stare when they saw their alpha king walking hand in hand with the bastard girl from the kitchens. I tried to ignore the whispers, the stares. Damon had insisted I wear a dress that marked me as someone important, deep purple silk that Luna Pamela had provided. My hair was arranged in a style that actually looked intentional rather than hastily pinned. I felt like a fraud. "Breathe," Damon murmured, squeezing my hand. "You're allowed to be here." "They're all staring." "Let them. You're going to be their Luna Queen. They should start getting used to seeing you." We stopped at a vendor selling honey. An elderly she-wolf named Bessie Vaughn, who'd always been kind to me on my rare trips to market for kitchen supplies. "Lyra?" She blinked in surprise. "Is that you, girl?" "Hello, Bessie. You look different." Her eyes traveled to my joined hands with Damon. Oh my. The rumors are true then?" "What rumors?" I asked, though I could guess. "That the Alpha King chose you, over all those fancy she-wolves at the mating ball." Bessie's smile was warm. "Good for you, dear. And about time someone saw what we've known all along. What's that? That you've got more worth in your little finger than most of those preening females have in their whole bodies. She packaged up a jar of honey, pressing it into my hands. This is on the house. Consider it a courting gift. I tried to pay. She refused. We were still arguing about it when I felt it, a shift in the air. A prickling awareness that something was wrong. Damon felt it too. His entire body went tense, his hand tightening on mine. "Garrett," he said quietly, though his beta was 20 feet away. The single word carried enough command that Garrett immediately moved closer, scanning the crowd. "Your Majesty?" "West side, by the leather vendor. 2 wolves, wrong scent." I followed his gaze and saw them. 2 males, nondescript, blending into the crowd. But their eyes were locked on me with predatory focus. "Get her back to the pack house," Damon ordered. "Now!" "What about you?" "I'm going to have a conversation with our friends over there about why they're watching my mate like she's prey." Before Garrett could respond, the 2 males moved, fast, not toward us, but away, melting into the crowd. "They're running," I said. "They got what they came for." Damon's voice was grim. "Confirmation that you're here, that we're together, that the rumors are true." Garrett moved to my other side, creating a protective formation. "We should go. Now!" The walk back to the pack house was tense. Every shadow felt threatening. Every unfamiliar face could be an enemy. By the time we reached the safety of the pack house walls, my heart was racing and my hands were shaking. Damon pulled me into a private sitting room, checking me over with frantic eyes. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Did they—" "I'm fine," I interrupted. "They didn't do anything, they just watched." "That's enough." He ran his hands through his hair, frustration clear in every line of his body. "The Silver Circle knows you're here, knows we're courting. They're gathering information, planning something." "How do you know it was them?" "Because I've been king long enough to recognize a reconnaissance mission when I see one." He paced the small room like a caged wolf. "We need better security. I'm bringing in more of my personal guard. No more public outings until we know it's safe." "So I'm a prisoner? You're protected." "It's the same thing." I stood, anger rising to replace fear. I spent my whole life hiding, making myself small. Staying out of sight, I'm not going back to that. "This is different. These wolves want to kill you." "And keeping me locked away changes that how exactly?" I crossed my arms. "Damon, I have 25 days left to figure out who I am. I can't do that from inside a cage, even if it's a pretty one." His jaw worked. "You're right, but I can't." His voice cracked. "Lyra, I can't lose you. If something happens, if they succeed—" I crossed to him, taking his face in my hands. "Then teach me to fight. Train me. Make me strong enough to protect myself instead of just hiding behind guards." "In 25 days? Combat training takes months, years." "Then teach me the basics. Enough to buy time. Enough to not be completely helpless." I held his gaze. "Please, I need to know I can defend myself. I need to not feel powerless." He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but we do this right. Full training regimen. Garrett will help. And Lyra?" His hands covered mine. "If I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. No heroics. You run, and you let the guards handle it. Deal?" "Deal." Training started the next morning at dawn. Garrett met me in a private courtyard, looking amused and slightly concerned. "The king tells me you want to learn combat," he said. "Yes. Any particular reason?" "I'm tired of being helpless." His expression softened. "Fair enough. But I need to know, can you shift yet? Controlled shift, I mean. Not just panic shift." I hadn't tried. Hadn't even thought about it. "I don't know." "Then that's lesson 1. Because fighting in human form is fine, but fighting in wolf form is better. Faster. Or stronger. And if the Silver Circle comes for you, they'll be shifted." He stepped back, giving me space. "Try now. Don't think about it too hard. Just reach for your wolf, and let her come forward." I closed my eyes and searched inside myself for that wild, fierce presence I'd always felt was missing. And there, faint, but definitely there, I felt her. My wolf. She'd always been there, just buried under years of being told I was less than. Come forward, I thought. Please. She surged up eagerly, like she'd been waiting for permission. The shift hurt less than I expected. Bones rearranged, fur sprouted, the world tilted as I fell forward onto 4 paws instead of 2 feet. I was smaller than Damon's wolf, smaller than most wolves I'd seen, but I was fast. I could feel it in the coiled power of my muscles, in the way the world looked sharper, has smelled richer. Good, Garrett said, approval clear in his voice. Very good. Now shift back. That was harder. My wolf wanted to run, to explore this new freedom, but I coaxed her back, promising we'd shift again soon. The change back to human left me gasping and naked in the courtyard. Garrett tossed me a robe without looking. You'll need to keep spare clothes nearby until you learn to shift with them intact. Some wolves can do it. Most can't. I wrapped the robe around myself, still shaking from the shift. How did I do? Better than expected. Your wolf is strong. She's been suppressed, not by drugs like some wolves, but by belief. You didn't think you had a wolf, so she stayed hidden. Now that you know she's there? He smiled. She's going to be a force. We spent the next 2 hours on basics. How to dodge. And where to strike to disable an opponent quickly. How to use my smaller size as an advantage rather than a weakness. By the time Damon arrived to watch the training, I was covered in sweat and bruises, but I'd successfully put Garrett on his back twice. She's a natural, Garrett said, helping me up after my 3rd successful takedown. Fast learner, good instincts. Damon's pride flowed through our partial bond. I could feel it now, growing stronger each day. That's my girl. The words made something warm bloom in my chest. My girl, like I belonged to someone, like someone claimed me as theirs, not out of obligation, but choice. Again, I told Garrett, I want to go again. We trained until I physically couldn't stand anymore. Damon had to carry me back to my room, where I collapsed onto the bed still in my training clothes. So you don't have to push yourself this hard, he said gently, brushing sweat-soaked hair from my face. Yes, I do. 25 days isn't much time to become someone who can defend herself. You're already someone who can defend herself. You survived 22 years in an environment that tried to break you, and you came out kind and curious and brilliant. That's defense. That's strength. I caught his hand, pressing it against my cheek. Tell me about the mate bond, about how it's supposed to feel when it's complete. He settled on the edge of the bed. It's different for everyone, but generally you feel a constant awareness of your mate, their emotions, their location, their physical state. When they're happy, you feel it. When they're hurt, you know immediately. It's like being 2 halves of one whole. Do you feel it? Oh, with me? I feel the beginning of it. Flickers. Moments where I know what you're feeling without you saying it. His thumb stroked my cheek. But it won't be complete until you choose it. Until you choose yourself first, then choose me. What if I can't? What if I'm too broken? You're not broken. You're wounded. There's a difference. He leaned down, pressing a kiss to my forehead. And wounds heal, Lyra, especially when you stop picking at them and start letting them close. Is that what these 25 days are? Healing time? That's exactly what they are. I pulled him down beside me, needing the comfort of his presence. He wrapped his arms around me carefully, mindful of my bruises. Damon? I'm starting to believe you. About me, about being worth something. I felt his smile against my hair. Good. That's good. We lay there in comfortable silence until I fell asleep, still wrapped in his arms, still believing, just a little bit more, that maybe I wasn't nothing after all. That night, Damon left Lyra sleeping and went to find Garrett in the guard quarters. We have a problem, his beta said immediately. The Silver Circle? Worse, your council. Garrett handed him a sealed letter. This arrived by courier an hour ago. Damon broke the seal and read. His blood went cold. Your Majesty, It has come to our attention that you are courting a she-wolf of questionable lineage and potentially dangerous bloodline. The council requests your immediate return to the capital to discuss this matter. The kingdom's stability cannot be jeopardized by a politically unwise mate choice. We understand the mate bond is sacred. However, we must insist on a thorough investigation of this she-wolf's claims before any formal bonding takes place. The council expects your return within 7 days. Respectfully, Elder Raymond Bryant. On behalf of the Council of Elders. They want me to leave her, Daemon said flatly. They want you to choose between your mate and your crown. That's not a choice. She is my mate. The oracle's prophecy was clear. The council doesn't know about the prophecy, and even if they did, some of them wouldn't care. They care about stability, about preventing challenges to your rule. Garrett's expression was grim. If Lyra really is descended from the first Alpha, there are factions who'll see her as either a threat or a tool. Either way, they'll want to control her. She's not a tool, she's a person, my mate. And I'm not leaving her vulnerable with 25 days left on the prophecy's deadline. Then you need to make a choice. Ignore the council and risk political revolt, or go to the capital and fight this battle on their turf. If I leave, the Silver Circle will move against her. They're already watching, waiting for an opening. Then bring her with you. Daemon shook his head. The capital is full of political predators. She's just learning to stand up for herself. Throwing her into that arena now would destroy her confidence. Seems like you're out of good options. Daemon crumpled the letter in his fist. I'm not choosing between my mate and my crown. I'm keeping both, which means we accelerate the timeline. How? I'm going to tell her the full prophecy, all of it. The 3 refusals, the self-worth requirement, everything. The Oracle said if I claim her before she claims herself, the bond will poison us. She didn't say I couldn't tell her what she needs to do to claim herself. Daemon's voice was hard. I've been trying to do this the careful way, the gentle way. But we're out of time, Garrett. I have to risk it. And if knowing the rules makes her too self-conscious to actually follow them, then we both die in 25 days anyway. At least this way, she has all the information. Garrett was quiet for a long moment. She's changed you. What? 6 months ago, you would have made the politically safe choice. Gone to the capital, smoothed things over with the council, found some compromise. Now you're ready to burn it all down for one she-wolf who doesn't even fully believe she's worth saving. She is worth saving, worth everything. I know. I just wanted to hear you say it. Garrett smiled. So when are you telling her? Tomorrow, after training. I'm going to tell her everything and pray she's strong enough to handle it. The next day. Training with Garrett had become my favorite part of the day. Not because I enjoyed getting thrown around, though I was getting better at not being thrown around, but because it made me feel capable, strong, like I could handle whatever was coming. We'd just finished a particularly brutal session when Daemon appeared in the courtyard, his expression serious. Can we talk? He asked. Privately? My stomach dropped. Those words never preceded good news. That we walked to the Wild Garden, our place now, where we'd had so many important conversations. The roses were in full bloom, their scent heavy in the afternoon air. What's wrong? I asked. I need to tell you about the prophecy, the full prophecy. I thought you couldn't tell me everything. I thought I couldn't either. But I was wrong, or rather, I was being too cautious. He took my hands. We have 25 days left, Lyra. And there are complications I haven't told you about. Political pressures, the council demanding I return to the capital, forces moving against us that we can't control. So I'm going to break the Oracle's rules and tell you everything, and we're going to pray it doesn't destroy us both. My mouth went dry. Okay. The Oracle said you would refuse me 3 times before you accepted. Every time you call yourself nobody, every time you say you're not worthy, that counts as a refusal. How many have I? 2. You've refused twice. Once when we first met. Once at the market when you tried to pay for the honey instead of accepting it as a gift. His thumbs traced circles on the backs of my hands. One more refusal, Lyra. Just one more time you tell yourself you're nothing, and the prophecy fails, and we both die. The weight of it crushed down on me. You've been counting this whole time? I had to. I needed to know where we stood. Why didn't you tell me before? Because the oracle warned me. If you accept me to fulfill a prophecy instead of because you believe you deserve to be chosen, the bond will be built on obligation. It'll fracture and kill us both anyway. He released my hands to cup my face. So I needed you to come to it naturally, to choose yourself because you actually believed it, not because you were trying to save our lives. But now you're telling me, because we're out of time. Because political forces are demanding I choose between you and my crown. Because the Silver Circle is watching and waiting for their moment to strike. His voice cracked. Because I'd rather die with you knowing the truth than live having kept you in the dark. I pulled away from him, needing space to think. So everything you've done, the dancing, the training, the market trip, it was all to manipulate me into choosing myself? No. It was all because I care about you. Because I want you to see what I see when I look at you. The prophecy just gave me a deadline. 25 days to save both our lives. And all I have to do is magically believe I'm worthy after spending 22 years learning the opposite. I know it's impossible. I know I'm asking you to undo years of damage in less than a month. But Lyra... He stepped closer. You're already doing it. You demanded combat training instead of hiding behind guards. You're shifting. You're standing up for yourself. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. Or I'm performing worthiness to save our lives. The words hung between us, sharp and true. Are you? He asked quietly. Performing? I wanted to say yes, wanted to make this simple by claiming it was all fake, but that would be a lie. I don't know, I admitted. When I'm with you, I feel like maybe I could be worth something. But the second I'm alone, all the old thoughts come back, all the old beliefs. And I don't know which version is real, the one who believes or the one who doubts. They're both real. You're allowed to be complicated, to be healing but not healed, to be growing but not grown. He took my hand again, gentle this time. I'm not asking for perfection, Lyra. I'm asking for honesty. For you to keep trying, to keep showing up, to keep fighting for yourself even when it's hard. And if I fail? If I can't do it in time? Then we'll die knowing we tried, knowing we fought for something real instead of settling for something safe. His smile was sad. But I don't think you'll fail. I think you're stronger than you know. And I think these 25 days are going to prove it. I wanted to believe him, wanted to believe I could save us both by simply choosing to be worthy. But belief was such a fragile thing. And I'd spent so long breaking it that building it back up felt impossible. I need time, I said, to process this, all of it. Take what you need. I'll be here. I left him in the wild garden and walked back to the pack house alone, his words echoing in my head. One more refusal and we both die. No pressure. Chapter 7, 18 days. I didn't speak to Damon for 3 days. Not out of anger, out of fear. Fear that I'd accidentally say the wrong thing, use the wrong words, trigger that third refusal and doom us both. He respected my space, though I could feel his worry through the partial bond we'd formed. It was getting stronger, that awareness of him. When he was near, my skin felt warm. When he was stressed, my chest tightened. When he smiled, even at something that had nothing to do with me, I felt it like sunshine. The mate bond was forming whether I believed I deserved it or not. On the 4th day, Luna Pamela found me in the library where I'd been hiding. You can't avoid him forever, she said, settling into the chair across from mine. I'm not avoiding, and I'm processing. You're terrified you'll say the wrong thing and kill you both. I looked up sharply. How did you... The king told Timothy, who told me, because apparently we're all invested in making sure you two idiots don't die over a prophecy. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes were kind. Lyra, can I give you some advice? Do I have a choice? No? She leaned forward. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to say and think exactly the right things. The prophecy isn't about performance, it's about belief. And you can't force belief. You either have it or you don't. That's not helpful. It's not meant to be helpful. It's meant to be true. She stood, moving to the window. When I married Timothy, I thought I had to be the perfect Luna. Strong, graceful, never showing weakness, never admitting fear or doubt or pain. And I thought that's what leadership meant. And I spent 20 years exhausted from performing perfection. Until you arrived, actually. Her laugh was bitter. A baby on the doorstep, proof of my mate's infidelity. Except it wasn't his infidelity at all. It was a test. Could I be kind to a child who represented everything I wasn't? Could I choose compassion over pride? Did you? I tried. Not perfectly. Not even well, honestly. But I tried. She turned back to me. And that's all the prophecy is asking of you, Lyra. Not perfection, not absolute certainty, just trying, just showing up, just refusing to give up on yourself even when it's easier to hide. What if trying isn't enough? Then at least you'll die knowing you fought for something real instead of something safe. She paused. Those are the king's words. Aren't they? Yes? He's not wrong. Safety is comfortable, but it's also a cage, and you've spent enough of your life in cages. She walked to the door, pausing at the threshold. The king is having dinner alone in the small dining room tonight. He requested that you join him if you're ready. If you're not, he'll understand. But Lyra, you have 18 days left. Don't waste them hiding in here when you could be living out there. I went to dinner. Damon was already there, setting out food himself instead of letting servants do it. Simple fare, bread, cheese, soup, the kind of meal we'd shared in the gardens weeks ago when this all started. He looked up when I entered, hope and caution warring in his expression. "Hi," I said. "Hi." He gestured to the chair across from him. "I wasn't sure you'd come." I wasn't sure either. I sat, fidgeting with my napkin. "I'm sorry for avoiding you, for—" "Don't apologize. You needed space. That's allowed." "Is it? Even with a prophecy counting down?" "Especially then." He ladled soup into my bowl. "Lyra, I need you to understand something. I don't want you to accept me out of fear or obligation. If we die in 18 days, I'd rather die knowing you chose yourself honestly than live knowing you performed worthiness to save us." That's very noble. Also possibly insane. His laugh surprised both of us. Probably. But it's true. We ate in silence for a while. The soup was good, rosemary and potato, probably made by Flora. Comfort food. "I've been thinking," I said finally, "about what you said, about choosing myself." "And?" "I don't know how to do that without it feeling performative. Every time I try to think I'm worthy, my brain immediately responds with all the reasons I'm not, and I don't know how to make it stop." Damon set down his spoon. "Can I try something?" "Okay." "Close your eyes." I did, feeling foolish. "Now tell me 3 things you like about yourself, not things you're good at, not things that make you useful, just things you like." My mind went blank. I don't know." "Try. Just one thing." I searched desperately. "I like that I read, that I'm curious about history and how things connect." "Good. What else?" "I like that I stayed kind. Even when the pack was cruel, I didn't become cruel back." "That's 2. One more." This one was harder. I sat there, eyes closed, trying to find something, anything I genuinely liked about myself. "I like that I survived," I whispered. "That I'm still here." Still trying, even when it would have been easier to stop. When I opened my eyes, Damon was smiling. "Those are 3 true things," he said. 3 things about you that have nothing to do with what you can provide others. 3 things that make you who you are. They're small things. They're everything. Curiosity, kindness, survival. Those are the things that make you extraordinary, Lyra. Not your bloodline, not your potential as Luna Queen. Just you, the person you chose to become despite everything trying to break you. Something cracked in my chest, not breaking, opening. I'm scared, I admitted. I know. What if I can't do this? What if 18 days isn't enough time to undo 22 years? Then we'll have tried, and we'll face whatever comes together. He reached across the table, offering his hand. But Lyra? And I don't think you're going to fail. I think you're already succeeding. You just don't recognize it yet. I took his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm against mine. The mate bond pulsed between us, stronger than before. Tell me about your day, I said, needing to shift to safer ground. What did you do while I was hiding in the library? So he told me. About council letters demanding his return, about Garrett's increasingly creative suggestions for telling the council where they could shove their demands, about a young wolf in the pack who'd asked him about combat training and reminded him of himself at that age. I told him about the book I'd been reading, about pack histories and old alliances and theories about what happened to the original pack structure. We talked until the candles burned low and the food went cold. Talked until the fear receded and all that was left was this: two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company, prophecy or no prophecy. Stay with me tonight, Damon said when we finally stood to leave. Not, I don't mean anything improper, just stay. Let me hold you. Let me feel you breathing. These 18 days are going too fast, and I'm greedy for every moment I can get. I should have said no, should have been proper and careful and maintained appropriate boundaries. Instead, I said, okay. His rooms were larger than mine, but somehow felt more intimate. Personal belongings scattered around, books stacked haphazardly, a worn jacket thrown over a chair, papers covered in his handwriting spread across the desk. Sorry about the mess, he said, hastily gathering papers. I wasn't expecting— It's fine. I like it. It feels lived in. He stopped cleaning, looking at me with something soft in his expression. You're the first person I've ever brought here. To the capital, I have formal quarters that are pristine and empty and feel like a museum. But here, he gestured around, here I can actually live. I'm honored. You should be. Garrett's been trying to get in here for years. I told him it's a sacred space reserved only for people I trust completely. The weight of that statement settled between us. We settled on his bed, fully clothed, maintaining respectful distance. But then he pulled me against his chest, wrapping his arms around me, and I let myself relax into his warmth. Tell me something, he murmured into my hair. Something true. Something you've never told anyone. I thought about it. Sometimes I dream about my father, the one I never met, Leo. I imagine him teaching me pack history, telling me about the first alpha, being proud of me for being curious instead of dismissing it as inappropriate for a bastard. He would have been proud, I'm certain of it. You never met him. I don't have to. I know you. And anyone who helped create someone as extraordinary as you must have been remarkable. I turned in his arms to face him. Do you really believe that? That I'm extraordinary? Or is it the mate bond making you see things that aren't there? The mate bond doesn't create feelings. It amplifies them. And yes, Lyra, I really believe it. I believed it before the bond started forming. I'll believe it when it's complete. And I'd believe it even if the prophecy failed and we both died. That's a depressing thought. It's a true one. We lay there in comfortable silence, his heartbeat steady under my ear. The mate bond hummed between us, warm and insistent. Damon? I'm glad it's you. Whatever happens in 18 days, I'm glad the prophecy led me to you. His arms tightened around me. Me too, love. Me too. The next morning. Damon woke to find Lyra still in his arms, her dark hair spread across his chest, her breathing deep and even. 18 days. They had 18 days left. The bond was stronger this morning. He could feel her contentment, her peace. It was the first time he'd felt her truly relaxed since they'd met. She stirred, blinking up at him sleepily. Morning. Morning. Sleep well? Better than I have in years, actually. She sat up, running her hands through her tangled hair. I should go. People will talk if they find out I spent the night in your rooms. Let them talk. You're my mate. We're allowed to spend time together. Allowed and wise are different things. Since when do you care about wisdom? He pulled her back down beside him. Stay. Have breakfast with me. We'll scandalize the pack together. She laughed, and the sound filled something hollow in his chest. You're a terrible influence. I'm the Alpha King. I'm supposed to be a terrible influence. A knock at the door interrupted them. Garrett's voice came through. Your Majesty, we have a situation. Daemon was up and opening the door before Garrett could knock again. What kind of situation? The Silver Circle. They've made contact, left a message at the border. Garrett's expression was grim. They want to meet with Lyra. Alone. They say they have information about her father's death. Daemon's blood went cold. That's obviously a trap. Obviously. But they're claiming they want to negotiate, that they're willing to leave her alone if she agrees to certain terms. What terms? They didn't specify, just said she needed to come to the meeting to find out. Garrett glanced past Daemon to where Lyra had appeared in the doorway, wrapped in his robe. Morning, Luna. Don't call me that yet, Lyra said automatically, then froze. Her eyes went wide with horror. Daemon's heart stopped. Don't call me that yet. Another refusal. A subtle one, but a refusal nonetheless. That was 3. The prophecy had just failed. I knew the moment the words left my mouth. Don't call me that yet. As if being called Luna was something I hadn't earned. As if I wasn't worthy of the title. 3 refusals. The color drained from Daemon's face, from Garrett's. Even I felt it, something in the air shifting. The partial mate bond we'd formed flickered, weakened. No, I whispered. No, I didn't mean... It's done. Daemon's voice was hollow. The 3rd refusal. The prophecy failed. But I wasn't refusing. I was just being accurate. I'm not Luna Queen yet. The bond isn't complete. I was just stating a fact. The Oracle's prophecy doesn't care about technicalities. It cares about belief, and you just said you're not worthy of being called Luna. His hands were shaking. 18 days. We had 18 days left, and you just... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't think... That's the problem. You still don't think you're worthy. Even after everything, even after all the progress, as some part of you still believes you're not good enough. His laugh was bitter. And now, we're both going to die because of it. Garrett cleared his throat uncomfortably. Your Majesty, perhaps the Oracle was wrong. Perhaps the prophecy wasn't as strict as... The Oracle has never been wrong. Daemon turned away from me, his shoulders rigid. Garrett, send word to the capital. Tell the council I'll be returning within the week. Tell them I need to put my affairs in order. Daemon, please. I reached for him. He pulled away like my touch burned. Don't. Just don't. He left. Just walked out of his own rooms, leaving me standing there in his robe, drowning in the reality of what I'd just done. I'd killed us both with 3 careless words. Garrett looked at me with something like pity. For what it's worth, I don't think you meant it as a refusal. But I said it, and meaning doesn't matter. Belief does. I sank onto the edge of the bed, feeling numb. 18 days. We had 18 days and I ruined it in 3 seconds. Maybe there's still time. Maybe if I what? Suddenly believe I'm worthy after spending my whole life learning the opposite? Garrett, I can't just flip a switch. I can't just decide to be different. Can't you? He settled into the chair across from me. Lyra, in the last month you've learned to fight, to shift, to stand up for yourself. You've faced down revelations about your bloodline, threats from the Silver Circle, political pressure from the council. You've done impossible things. What's one more? Believing I deserve to live? That's not the same as learning to throw a punch. No, it's harder. But you're capable of hard things. He stood, moving to the door. The king is angry right now, terrified. Give him time to process, then try again. You still have 18 days. The prophecy might have failed, but you don't have to. He left me alone with my thoughts and my guilt, and the terrible weight of knowing I'd doomed the one person who'd ever truly believed in me. Chapter 8. 12 days. 6 days later. The bond was dying. Damon could feel it, the slow, creeping death of something that had barely begun. What should have been a vibrant, living connection between him and Lyra was withering like a flower denied water. It didn't hurt yet. The Oracle had said they'd have about a week after the prophecy failed before the real deterioration began. But he could feel the warning signs, fatigue that sleep didn't cure, a heaviness in his chest that made breathing feel like work, thoughts that came slower, duller. Lyra was experiencing it too. He could tell from the dark circles under her eyes, the way she moved like every step required conscious effort. They'd barely spoken since that morning 6 days ago. He'd thrown himself into political preparations, writing letters to the council, in organizing his affairs, preparing Garrett to take over as temporary regent when the time came, because he was going to die. They both were. In 12 days, give or take. All because she'd said 4 words. Don't call me that yet. He should forgive her, should spend these last 12 days holding her, loving her, making peace with their ending. Instead, he avoided her, because seeing her hurt too much, because every time he looked at her, he saw everything they could have been and everything they'd lost. "You're being an ass," Garrett said, finding him in the study at midnight, again. Damon had taken to working through the nights, sleeping in brief, fitful bursts. "I'm being practical. You're being punishing. To her and to yourself." Garrett took the papers Damon was working on and moved them out of reach. "She made a mistake." "An unconscious one. She didn't mean to refuse you. Intent doesn't matter. The prophecy doesn't care about intent." "Maybe not. But you should." Garrett's voice was sharp. "You told her you loved her, that she was extraordinary, that she was everything, and the first time she stumbles, you abandon her? That's not love, Damon. That's cowardice." "I'm not abandoning. You haven't spoken to her in 6 days. You've moved out of the pack house into guest quarters. You take your meals alone. You've forbidden her from training sessions." Garrett leaned forward. "If you're going to die in 12 days anyway, why are you wasting the time you have left being angry?" Because anger was easier than grief, easier than accepting that he'd found his true mate and lost her in the same breath. "I don't know how to forgive this," Damon admitted quietly. Then figure it out. Because Lyra is downstairs right now, barely able to stand, forcing herself through combat training even though you banned her from it. She's fighting, Damon. Still fighting, while you're up here hiding in paperwork. Guilt twisted in Damon's gut. She's training? In her condition? Has been every day since you left. Says if she's going to die, she's going to die strong. Garrett stood. "Now get your head out of your ass and go talk to your mate. You have 12 days. Make them count." Damon found Lyra in the private courtyard at dawn, moving through combat forms with shaking muscles and gritted teeth. She looked terrible, pale, exhausted, barely able to stay upright. She also looked magnificent. "You're supposed to be resting," he said. She spun, nearly falling. He caught her instinctively, and the moment they touched, the dying mate bond flickered. Not stronger, just present, a reminder of what they were losing. "You banned me from training with Garrett," she said, pulling away from his grip. "You didn't ban me from training alone." "Lyra, don't. If you're here to yell at me again, save it. I've been yelling at myself for 6 days. Nothing you can say will be worse than what I've already thought." "I'm not here to yell. Then why are you here?" Good question. Why was he here? Garrett said you've been training every day. I have 12 days to learn to defend myself. Can't waste time sleeping. Her laugh was bitter. Though I suppose it doesn't matter. The Silver Circle could walk up and stab me right now, and it wouldn't matter. I'm already dying. We're both dying. Yes, because of me. Yes, because I can't stop being what I've always been. Not enough. She turned away, moving through another combat form. Her movements were sloppy, exhausted. Go away, Damon. Go write your letters and prepare your kingdom. Let me die the way I lived. Alone. You're not alone. Aren't I? You've spent 6 days avoiding me, making it very clear that I'm responsible for killing us both. So yes, I'm alone. Just like always. The words hit like physical blows. Because she was right. He'd abandoned her when she needed him most. I'm sorry, he said quietly. She stopped moving. What? I'm sorry. For abandoning you. For being angry instead of being present. For wasting 6 days of the 12 we have left. He moved closer. Lyra, I was hurt, terrified, furious that we'd gotten so close and lost everything because of 3 words. But Garrett's right. You didn't mean it as a refusal, you were just being accurate. Accuracy that killed us. Yes, but intent matters, and your intent wasn't to refuse me. Your intent was just... He paused, searching for words. You're so used to not claiming things that don't feel earned yet, and being Luna Queen didn't feel earned because the bond wasn't complete. So you corrected Garrett out of habit, not malice. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know. But I know I don't want to spend our last 12 days angry at you. He took her hands, feeling how cold they were. I want to spend them with you. However you'll let me. She stared at him for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I killed us both and I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it. The prophecy failed. But we can still choose how we spend the time we have left. He pulled her into his arms, holding her while she sobbed. We can choose love over anger, presence over avoidance, life over waiting for death. I don't want to die. I know, love, I know. They stood there in the dawn light, holding each other, feeling the bond between them flicker and fade. 12 days. They had 12 days to make peace with the impossible. Having Damon back felt like breathing after nearly drowning. We spent the day together, not training or planning or preparing, just being, walking through gardens, sitting by the fountain, talking about everything and nothing. Tell me about your mother, I said as we sat under an old oak tree. What was she like? Fierce, kind, absolutely terrifying when she was angry. Damon smiled at the memory. But she used to say that being queen didn't mean being perfect. It meant being present, showing up even when it was hard, choosing love even when fear was easier. She sounds wonderful. She was. She would have loved you. He played with my fingers, tracing the scars from kitchen work. You're a lot like her, actually. Stronger than you know. Kinder than you should be after everything you've survived. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. He lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to my scarred knuckles. You've gotten back up more times than anyone should have to. That's strength, Lyra. We were quiet for a while, just existing together, feeling the bond pulse weakly between us. Damon? If we had done everything right, if I hadn't refused you that 3rd time, what would our life have looked like? He was quiet, considering. We would have completed the bond, returned to the capital as mates. You would have been crowned Luna Queen in a ceremony that would have made you miserable because you hate being the center of attention. I laughed despite myself. True. We would have fought about your habit of working too hard and my habit of being overprotective. We would have driven each other crazy and loved every minute of it. His voice grew softer. We would have had time, years and years of time, to learn each other, to grow together, to build something beautiful. I'm sorry I took that from us. Don't. We're not spending these 12 days on regret. He pulled me closer. We're spending them on this, on moments worth remembering. Even though we won't be around to remember them? Especially then. That evening, Luna Pamela found me in the library. I heard the king is speaking to you again, she said. Yes, we made peace, for whatever time we have left. She settled into the chair across from me. I want to tell you something. About your father. Your real father. Leo. I set down my book. You knew him? I met him once, 23 years ago. He came to our territory seeking safe haven for Vicky. She was pregnant with you, terrified, running from wolves who'd already killed Leo's entire family. Pamela's expression was distant with memory. He was supposed to meet her here, but he never made it. We found out later he'd been ambushed on the border, killed before he could reach safety. He was coming here? To you? To us. Timothy and I had agreed to hide both of them, give them new identities, let them start over somewhere safe. Her voice cracked slightly. But he died, and Vicky arrived alone with a newborn and a note about wolf politics. We kept our promise anyway. Hid you, protected you, raised you as best we could. Why are you telling me this now? Because you should know. Your father fought to save you, died trying to reach you, and your mother sacrificed everything, including her relationship with you, to keep you alive. Pamela leaned forward. You're not unwanted, Lyra. You're not a mistake. You're a child that two people loved so much they gave up everything for you. The words cracked something open in my chest. All these years I'd believed I was abandoned because I wasn't worth keeping. But what if I was abandoned because I was worth saving? It doesn't change anything, I whispered. I still failed the prophecy. We're still dying. No, but maybe it changes how you see yourself in the time you have left. She stood, pausing at the door. You were loved, Lyra. You are loved. The king loves you. She paused, emotion thickening her voice. I should have told you that more. I'm sorry I didn't. After she left, I sat in the library for a long time, letting her words sink in. Loved. I was loved. Not because of what I could provide, not because of my bloodline or my potential or my usefulness, just loved. For being me. The realization should have come earlier, should have been the thing that saved us, but it came now, with 12 days left, and I didn't know what to do with it except hold it close and wish we'd had more time. On that night, Damon found Lyra sitting in the wild garden, surrounded by his mother's roses, crying silently in the moonlight. What's wrong? He asked, settling beside her. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. She wiped at her tears. Pamela told me about my parents, about how they loved me, how they fought for me. And I'm realizing that I spent 22 years believing I was unwanted when I was actually loved so much that people died trying to save me. That's a lot to process. It changes how I see everything. My whole life I thought I was the problem, that there was something wrong with me that made me unlovable. But what if I was always lovable? What if I just couldn't see it? Damon's heart ached. You were always lovable. You are lovable. I've been trying to show you that for weeks. I know, and I'm finally starting to believe it. Her laugh was watery. 12 days too late, but I'm finally starting to believe it. They sat together in the garden, surrounded by wild roses and moonlight. Damon? Yes? When we die, when the bond kills us, will it hurt? He considered lying, decided she deserved the truth. The oracle said it would be like slowly suffocating, like drowning in air. It won't be quick or painless. That's what I thought. She took his hand. Will you stay with me? When it happens? I don't want to die alone. You're not dying alone. We're dying together. He pulled her into his lap, wrapping his arms around her. And yes, I'll stay with you. Every moment until the end. Promise? I promise. They stayed in the garden until dawn, holding each other, counting down the days they had left. 12 days until the winter solstice, 12 days until the bond's failure killed them both, 12 days to make peace with losing everything they'd almost had. The next morning, I woke in Damon's arms in the wild garden. We'd fallen asleep there sometime before dawn, exhausted from crying and talking and holding each other. 11 days left now. The bond was weaker this morning. I could barely feel Damon's presence through it. Soon it would be gone entirely, and then the real dying would start. We should make a list, I said. Damon stirred, opening his eyes. A list? Of things we want to do, in the 11 days we have left, things we'd regret not doing. He smiled sadly. Okay. What's on your list? I want to read you my favorite book, the one Flora lent me about the first alpha. I want you to know why I love it. Added to the list? What else? I want to dance with you again, properly this time, without me counting steps or worrying about stepping on your feet. We can do that. Tonight, even. He brushed hair from my face. What else? I hesitated. I want to meet your wolf. Properly. I've seen him in passing, but I want to run with him. Feel what it's like to be truly Pack, even if it's just for a moment. Done. We'll shift this afternoon. He kissed my forehead. My turn. I want to take you to the capital. Show you the palace. Let you see what could have been ours. That's a 3-day journey. Then we better leave today. We have 11 days. Let's not waste them. But the Silver Circle can go to hell. If I'm dying in 11 days, I'm not spending them hiding. Oh, I'm spending them living. His expression was fierce. With you. Doing everything we should have done if we'd had time. So we made a list. Reading, dancing, running, traveling, talking, touching. Every moment we could think of that we wanted to fill our last days with. And then we started checking things off. Because if we were going to die, we were going to die having lived first. Chapter 9. 5 days. 6 days after the list. The capital was breathtaking. We'd arrived yesterday after a 3-day journey that should have been exhausting, but felt like freedom. Damon and I rode together, Garrett and a small guard following at a respectful distance. We stopped in small villages, ate at roadside inns, slept under stars. For 3 days, we weren't a dying king and his failed mate. We were just 2 wolves traveling together, making the most of borrowed time. The palace itself was enormous, 3 times the size of the Silverpaw pack house, with towers that scraped the sky and gardens that seemed to stretch forever. Wolves bowed when we passed. Servants scrambled to accommodate the king's unexpected arrival. This was supposed to be yours, Damon said as we walked through the halls. Queen of all this. Ruler of the kingdom. It's beautiful. But honestly, I squeezed his hand. I'm glad I got to see it without the pressure of actually having to rule it. I can just appreciate it for what it is, instead of being terrified of what it represents. He laughed. Trust you to find the silver lining in our impending deaths. We'd gotten better at dark humor. It was easier than crying. The council was less amused by our arrival. Elder Raymond Bryant requested an audience within an hour of our appearance. He looked older than when I'd seen him at the mating ball, more frail, more worried. Your Majesty, he said, bowing stiffly, we weren't expecting you. And with her. Her name is Lyra, Damon said coldly. And she's my mate. Show respect or leave. Raymond's jaw tightened. Your Majesty, the Council has serious concerns about this match. The she-wolf's bloodline, her lack of training, her questionable parentage are completely irrelevant considering we'll both be dead in 5 days, Damon interrupted. Silence fell over the council chamber. Dead? Another elder, a she-wolf named Christy Owens, leaned forward. Your Majesty, what do you mean? So Damon told them about the Oracle's prophecy, about the mate bond, about the 3 refusals and the failed prophecy and the slow death we were both experiencing. You should have told us, Raymond said when Damon finished. The council should have been informed about a prophecy affecting the king's life. And what would you have done? Forbidden me from pursuing my true mate? Demanded I choose politically instead? Damon's voice was sharp. I know exactly what you would have done. That's why I didn't tell you. We could have helped. You couldn't. No one could. The prophecy was clear. She had to choose herself. I couldn't force it. You couldn't force it. It had to be real. He looked at me, love and regret clear in his expression. And we ran out of time. Christy stood, moving closer to study me. You're really dying? Both of you? Yes, the bond is failing. In 5 days, it'll start killing us actively. We'll have perhaps a week beyond that if we're lucky. And there's no way to reverse it? No healer, no magic, nothing? The Oracle has never been wrong, Damon said quietly. And the bond is already too damaged to repair. It's over. The council members exchanged looks. Then we need to prepare for succession, Raymond said practically. Your Majesty, you'll need to name an heir, establish a regency council. But there are protocols. I know the protocols. I've already written everything down. Garrett will serve as regent until the council can elect a new king. Damon's voice was tired. I didn't come here to discuss politics. I came here to show Lyra what could have been hers. We have 5 days. I'd like to spend them in peace. Of course, Your Majesty. Christy bowed her head respectfully. The palace is yours, both of yours. Use it as you will. That evening, Damon took me to the palace's ballroom, the grand one, not the small practice room we'd used before. I promised you another dance, he said, leading me to the center of the marble floor. A proper one, in a proper ballroom, like a real queen. I'm not a queen. For tonight, you are. He signaled to musicians I hadn't noticed waiting in the gallery above. They began playing a waltz. This time, I didn't count steps, didn't worry about my feet. I just followed his lead, let him spin me across the floor, let myself feel beautiful and graceful and worthy of this moment. You're getting good at this, he said, smiling. I have a good teacher. You have a teacher who's hopelessly in love with you. The words should have made me sad, a reminder of what we were losing. Instead, they made me brave. I love you too, I said, the first time I'd said it out loud. I don't know if that helps or makes it worse, but I love you. I think I have since you walked into the kitchen and looked at me like I was someone worth seeing. He stopped dancing, just stood there holding me in the middle of the ballroom. Say it again, he whispered. I love you, Damon Whitehead. And I love your patience and your kindness and the way you never gave up on me even when I gave up on myself. I love that you see the best in people even when they can't see it themselves. I love... He kissed me, gentle at first, then deeper, pouring everything he felt into it. Love and grief and desperate hope and terrible certainty all tangled together. When we finally broke apart, we were both crying. I love you too, he said. I love you so much it physically hurts. And I'm so sorry we don't get more time. Me too. But Damon? I touched his face, wiping away tears. I'm not sorry it was you. However it ends, I'm glad you were the one who showed me I was worth loving. We stood there in the empty ballroom holding each other while the musicians played on. 5 days. We had 5 days left. We were going to make them count. As 2 days later. 3 days until the winter solstice. 3 days until midnight when the bond's failure would begin actively killing them. Damon could feel it getting worse. His hands shook now, his thoughts came slower. Sleep brought nightmares of suffocation, of drowning in air, of watching Lyra die while being unable to help her. She was experiencing it too. She'd fainted twice in the last 2 days, could barely eat, spent most of her energy just staying conscious, but she was still fighting. Still trying. This morning, she'd insisted on reading him her favorite book despite barely being able to hold it steady. They'd made it through 3 chapters before she'd fallen asleep mid-sentence, exhausted. He'd carried her to bed, his bed, their bed for these last few days, and held her while she slept, and counting her heartbeats like precious coins. A knock on the door pulled him from his vigil. Garrett entered, his expression troubled. We have a visitor. The Oracle. Damon's heart stopped. She's here? Why? She says she needs to speak with both of you. Says it's urgent. We're 3 days from death. What could possibly be urgent? I don't know. But she's waiting in the throne room. And she looks... Garrett paused. Scared. I've never seen her scared before. Damon gently woke Lyra. She blinked up at him, confused and exhausted. The Oracle is here, he said quietly. She wants to see us. Why? I don't know, but we should probably find out. They made their way slowly to the throne room. Lyra leaned heavily on Damon's arm, her breathing labored. They were both deteriorating faster than he'd expected. The oracle stood in the center of the room, her milky eyes somehow seeing everything despite being blind. She looked ancient and worried. 3 days, she said without preamble. You have 3 days until the prophecy's deadline. We know, Damon said. We've been counting. The bond is failing faster than I predicted. You'll both be dead by the solstice, not after it. Also aware of that. Why are you here? The oracle was quiet for a long moment. I made a mistake. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. You... What? Damon's voice was barely a whisper. The prophecy. I interpreted it wrong. Or rather, I gave you incomplete information because I didn't fully understand what the moon goddess was showing me. The oracle's hands shook, the first time Damon had ever seen her display physical fear. I've spent the last month reviewing the vision, searching for what I missed, and I found it. Found what? The third refusal. The oracle turned to Lyra. Child, when you said don't call me that yet, you weren't refusing the king. You were refusing yourself. Lyra swayed on her feet. Damon caught her. I don't understand, she whispered. The prophecy said you would refuse 3 times before accepting. I thought it meant refusing the king, refusing the mate bond, but it didn't. The oracle's voice grew urgent. It meant refusing yourself, refusing to claim who you are, refusing to accept your own worth. But that's the same thing, Damon said. She refused to be called Luna because she didn't think she was worthy. No. She refused to be called Luna because she believed she hadn't earned it yet. Not because she was unworthy, but because the process wasn't complete. The oracle moved closer. There's a difference between I'm not worthy and I'm not ready yet. One is self-hatred, the other is simply honesty. Lyra made a small sound. I wasn't saying I could never be Luna. I was saying I wasn't Luna yet. The bond wasn't complete. It was just... accurate. Exactly. And that's not a refusal of self-worth. That's an acknowledgement of process. The oracle's expression softened. Child, you've spent these last weeks learning to value yourself, learning to see your worth. The third refusal wasn't a failure. It was proof that you'd already succeeded. But the bond is still dying, Damon said, hope and confusion warring in his chest. If she didn't fail the prophecy, why is the bond failing? Because you both believed she had. Belief is powerful, King Damon. Yet when you both believed the prophecy had failed, you stopped feeding the bond, stopped nurturing it. You've spent the last 12 days grieving instead of living. The oracle's voice turned sharp. The bond didn't fail because of the prophecy. It's failing because you both gave up. Silence fell over the throne room. Are you saying we can still save it? Lyra's voice was barely audible. That we're not dying? I'm saying the prophecy never failed in the first place. You passed all 3 tests. You learned to choose yourself. You learned to see your worth. You learned the difference between humility and self-hatred. The oracle smiled, a rare, genuine smile. You were never broken, child. Yet you were exactly who you needed to be all along. But we only have 3 days. Then you have 3 days to undo the damage you've done to the bond by believing it was hopeless. 3 days to choose life instead of death. 3 days to complete what you almost had. Damon looked at Lyra. She looked back at him, hope and terror equally visible in her expression. How? He asked. How do we fix this? The same way you started it. Choose each other. Choose the bond. Choose life. The oracle turned to leave. But this time, do it believing you deserve it. Both of you. She walked out of the throne room, leaving them standing there, holding each other up, processing the impossible. The prophecy hadn't failed. They weren't dying because of fate. They were dying because they'd given up. And they had 3 days to undo it. I couldn't breathe, not because of the bond's deterioration, but because hope was more terrifying than acceptance. She could be wrong, I whispered. She's been wrong before. She said so herself. Or she could be right. Damon's hands framed my face. Lyra, what if we're not dying? What if we've been killing ourselves with grief and giving up? But the bond is so weak. Because we stopped feeding it. We spent 12 days preparing to die instead of fighting to live. His eyes searched mine. What if we fight? What if we spend these 3 days choosing each other instead of mourning what we've lost? I don't know if I can survive hoping again. What if she's wrong and we die anyway? At least now I've made peace with it. Have you? Because I haven't. I'm terrified and angry and desperate. His voice cracked. And if there's even a chance we can save this, save us, I have to try. But Lyra, I need you to try too. I need you to fight with me. I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the dark circles under his eyes, the tremor in his hands, the desperate hope in his expression. He was right. We'd given up. Both of us. We'd accepted death as inevitable and stopped fighting for life. Okay, I said. How do we start? We choose. Right now. We choose each other. We choose the bond. We choose to believe it can be saved. Just like that? Just like that. He pulled me closer, resting his forehead against mine. I could feel the bond between us, weak, fragile, barely there, but present, still present. I choose you, he whispered. I choose this bond. I choose life with you over death without you, and I choose to believe we can still save this. The bond flickered, warmed slightly. Your turn, he said. I closed my eyes, reaching for that place inside me where the bond connected us. It felt like touching spider silk, delicate, almost gone, but still holding. I choose you, I said. My voice shook but grew stronger. I choose this bond. I choose... I paused, feeling for the right words. I choose myself. I choose to believe I'm worthy of this, of you, of life. I choose to stop apologizing for existing and start claiming what's mine. The bond flared. Not healed, but warmer. More present. Again, Damon said. Say it again. I choose myself. I choose my worth. I choose to believe I deserve love and happiness and a future. Tears streamed down my face. I choose to live, Damon. I choose to fight for us. The bond grew stronger, and still damaged, but healing. Like a wound that had finally been given permission to close. We stood there in the throne room holding each other, feeling the bond slowly, carefully, begin to knit back together. 3 days. We had 3 days until the winter solstice. 3 days to heal what we'd almost destroyed. 3 days to choose life. We weren't dead yet, and we were going to fight like hell to stay that way. Chapter 10. 0 days. Winter solstice. Morning. I woke to sunlight streaming through palace windows and Damon's arms around me. Today was the winter solstice. The deadline. By midnight tonight, the bond would either be complete or it would kill us both. For 3 days, we'd worked on healing what we'd damaged. 3 days of choosing each other, choosing life, choosing to believe we deserved this. The bond was stronger now. I could feel Damon's presence constantly, his emotions bleeding into mine and vice versa. But it still wasn't complete. We still had one final step to take. Morning, Damon murmured against my hair. How do you feel? Terrified, hopeful, alive. I turned in his arms to face him. You? The same. The bond is stronger, but it's not done yet. What's missing? He was quiet for a moment. Yeah, the Oracle said I had to choose to be vulnerable, that we both had to show each other our whole selves, not just the good parts, but the broken parts too, the parts we're ashamed of. I thought we'd already done that. We've done some of it, but there are things I haven't told you, things I'm afraid will make you see me differently. I sat up, studying his face. Tell me. Whatever it is, tell me. He took a deep breath. When my mother died, I broke, completely shattered. The kingdom was in chaos, my father was useless with grief, and I was 15 and had no idea how to hold anything together. His voice was raw. I tried to kill myself. Took enough sleeping draft to stop my heart. Garrett found me and got the healers in time, but Lyra, I wanted to die. I couldn't handle the pressure, the responsibility, the weight of everyone depending on me when I could barely depend on myself. My breath caught. Damon? I've never told anyone except Garrett. The official story is that I had a bad reaction to medication, but the truth is I was so broken I tried to end it. His eyes met mine, and some part of me is still that broken 15-year-old, terrified he's not enough, terrified he'll fail everyone who depends on him. I've just gotten better at hiding it. I took his face in my hands. Thank you for trusting me with that, for showing me that part of you. Your turn. Tell me something you're ashamed of, something you've never told anyone. I didn't have to think long. When I was 12, there was a young Omega wolf who worked in the kitchens. Her name was Mindy. She was kind to me, treated me like I mattered. And one day, Vanessa, the alpha's daughter from another pack who was visiting, started bullying her, called her names, pushed her around, made her cry. My voice dropped to a whisper. And I didn't defend her. I just stood there and watched because I was afraid if I stood up for her, Vanessa would turn on me instead. Mindy left the pack a week later. I never saw her again, never apologized, never told her I was sorry for being a coward. You were 12 and powerless. I was a coward who chose safety over doing what was right, and I've carried that shame for 10 years. Tears burned my eyes. I spent my whole life being kind because I knew what cruelty felt like, but when it mattered, when I could have actually helped someone, I stayed silent. Damon pulled me into his arms. We're both broken, both ashamed, all both carrying things we wish we'd done differently. Does that make us worthy of each other or unworthy of anyone? Both. Neither. I don't know. He laughed softly. But I know I'd rather be broken with you than whole with anyone else. The bond pulsed between us, warming at his words. We have until midnight, I said. What do we need to do to complete this? The Oracle said we both had to claim ourselves first, then claim each other. You've done the first part. You've learned to see your worth. I've done the first part. I've learned to be vulnerable. Now we both have to claim each other. Fully. Completely. No more holding back. How? His silver eyes held mine. The traditional way. The bonding ceremony. It requires a witness, a declaration, and the final claiming bite that seals the bond permanently. My heart raced. I want to marry you, Lyra. Today. Now. Before midnight. I want to stand before witnesses and claim you as my mate, my queen, my everything. And then I want you to claim me back. I don't know the words. I don't know the ceremony. Elder Christie does. She's been performing bonding ceremonies for 50 years. He stood, pulling me up with him. Marry me, Lyra. Not because a prophecy demands it, not because we're running out of time, but because I love you and I want to spend whatever life we have left belonging to you. I should have been nervous, should have needed time to prepare, to think, to process. Instead, I said, yes, today, now. Let's do this. Afternoon. The palace's small chapel was perfect, intimate, private, beautiful. Damon had chosen it specifically because it wasn't the grand ceremonial hall where kings traditionally married. This wasn't about politics or spectacle. This was about love. Elder Christie stood at the altar, ancient and wise and looking pleased. Garrett stood as witness, his expression proud. A handful of trusted pack members filled the pews, people who'd supported them through everything. And Lyra stood at the chapel entrance, wearing a simple white dress that Luna Pamela had somehow produced in 3 hours. Her dark hair was loose, flowers woven through it. She looked terrified and radiant and absolutely perfect. Timothy walked beside her, not giving her away, but supporting her. A compromise they'd reached when Lyra admitted she didn't know who should walk with her since her real father was dead, and Timothy wasn't actually her father at all. I may not be your father by blood, Timothy had said quietly, but I failed you for 22 years. Let me do this one thing right. Now they walked down the aisle together, and Damon felt the bond surge with emotion. Love, fear, hope, joy, all tangled together. Lyra reached the altar. Timothy squeezed her hand once, then stepped back. "We are gathered," Elder Christie began, her voice carrying through the chapel, "to witness the bonding of King Damon Whitehead and Lyra Gutierrez. This is not a political alliance. This is not a strategic marriage. This is a true mate bond, blessed by the moon goddess herself, and we are honored to bear witness." She looked at Damon. The king will speak his claim first." Damon took both of Lyra's hands in his. The bond between them hummed, waiting. "Lyra Gutierrez," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "When I met you, I was searching for someone who could see past the crown to the person wearing it. I found that in you, but I also found so much more. I found brilliance hidden under humility, strength disguised as gentleness, courage that looked like survival." Tears streamed down Lyra's face, but she didn't look away. "You taught me that broken things can heal. That worth isn't determined by what others think, but by what we choose to believe about ourselves. You taught me that vulnerability is strength, that asking for help is courage, that love is a choice we make every day." He squeezed her hands. "I claim you as my mate, my equal, my Luna Queen. Not because a prophecy demanded it, but because I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you. Will you accept my claim?" The bond blazed between them, hot and insistent. "I accept," Lyra whispered. Elder Christie turned to Lyra. "Now the Luna speaks her claim." Lyra took a shaky breath. "I'm not good with words like you are. I spent most of my life staying quiet, making myself small, apologizing for existing. But you taught me that I'm allowed to take up space, to speak, to claim what's mine." Her voice grew stronger. "Damon Whitehead, when you walked into that kitchen and looked at me like I mattered, you broke something open in me, something I'd kept locked away because it was safer to be nothing than to risk being seen and rejected. But you saw me anyway. You refused to let me hide." She stepped closer. "Well, you taught me that I'm worth fighting for, that my story matters, that I'm allowed to want things, love, happiness, a future. You showed me what it feels like to be chosen, not out of obligation but out of genuine affection. And you did it with patience and kindness, even when I made it as difficult as possible." Tears ran freely down her face now. "I claim you as my mate, my equal, my king. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because you're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm not giving that up without a fight. I choose you, Damon, today and every day after. Will you accept my claim?" "I accept," he said, his own voice thick with emotion. Elder Christie smiled. "Then by the power vested in me by the moon goddess and the laws of this kingdom, I declare you bonded mates. King Damon, you may seal the bond." This was it. The final step. The claiming bite that would complete the mate bond permanently. Damon pulled Lyra close, tilting her head to expose her neck, the place where her shoulder met her throat, the traditional claiming spot. "This will hurt," he warned softly. "I trust you." He let his canines extend, sharper, longer than human teeth, and bit down precisely where the bond demanded. Lyra gasped, her fingers digging into his shoulders, but she didn't pull away. The bond exploded. Everything that had been weak and fragile and barely holding together suddenly blazed into full, vibrant life. Damon could feel everything. Lyra's love, her fear, her joy, her relief, her overwhelming certainty that this was right. And underneath it all, he felt her wolf finally, fully emerge, strong and fierce and absolutely certain of her mate. He released the bite, licking the wound to seal it. It would scar, a permanent mark showing the world she was claimed, bonded, his. "Your turn," Elder Christie said to Lyra. Lyra's eyes had shifted to wolf gold. Her canines extended, and she pulled Damon down to her level. Her bite was less practiced, but no less meaningful. Pain flared, then was immediately swallowed by the overwhelming sensation of the bond completing. They were one. Two halves of a whole, finally joined the way they were always meant to be. When Lyra released the bite, they stood there in the chapel, foreheads pressed together, feeling the bond settle into place. Permanent. Unbreakable. Perfect. "I present to you," Elder Christie announced to the small gathering, "King Daemon Whitehead and Luna Queen Lyra Whitehead, and may their bond strengthen the kingdom and their love inspire us all." The chapel erupted in howls, the traditional wolf celebration. Daemon and Lyra joined in, their voices rising together in harmony. The mate bond was complete. They were alive. They were together. They had saved each other, after all. Midnight. The winter solstice reached its peak at midnight. Daemon and I stood in the palace gardens, watching the moon climb to its highest point. Around us, pack members had gathered for the traditional solstice celebration, but we stood apart, wrapped in each other's arms. The bond between us was so strong now it felt like breathing. I could feel everything, his love, his relief, his absolute certainty that we'd made it. "We're alive," I whispered, still barely believing it. "We're alive," he confirmed. "The prophecy is complete. Oh, the bond is sealed. You're officially Luna Queen, and I'm stuck with you forever." "Poor you." "Luckiest male in the kingdom," he corrected, kissing my temple. The clock tower began to chime midnight, 12 bells marking the exact moment the prophecy had predicted would kill us. Instead, we stood there, healthy and whole and bonded, counting the bells together. When the last chime faded, a familiar presence made itself known. The oracle stepped from the shadows, her milky eyes somehow seeing everything. "You did it," she said simply. "Against all odds, against your own doubt and fear, you completed the prophecy." "We almost didn't," I said. "We almost gave up." "Almost doesn't count. What matters is you fought. Both of you. You chose each other and yourselves even when it seemed hopeless." She moved closer, placing a hand on my cheek. "You were never broken, child. You were always exactly who you needed to be. It just took finding someone who could see it to help you see it yourself." "Thank you," I said, "for the prophecy, for coming back when we misunderstood, for not giving up on us." "The moon goddess doesn't give prophecies to wolves who can't fulfill them. She knew you had it in you all along." The oracle smiled. "Now go. Rule your kingdom. Love each other. Live the life you fought so hard to have." She melted back into the shadows, leaving us alone under the full moon. "Luna Queen," Daemon said, testing out the title. "How does it feel?" I thought about it. A month ago, I would have said it felt wrong, unearned, impossible. Now? "It feels right," I said honestly. "Terrifying and overwhelming and completely right. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to doubt myself. I'm going to have moments where the old thoughts come back and tell me I'm not worthy. And when that happens, I'll remember this moment. I'll remember that I fought for this, that I chose this, that I'm not just worthy, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." I turned in his arms to face him, "And I'll have you to remind me when I forget." "Always," he promised, "for the rest of our very long, very boring, very normal lives together." Normal? Well, relatively normal. For a king and queen who almost died from a prophecy and saved themselves by learning to believe in their own worth. I laughed. "When you put it like that, we're going to have the most interesting how we met story in kingdom history." "Good. Let the other couples try to compete with that." We stood in the gardens until dawn, just holding each other, feeling the bond pulse strong and steady between us. Around us, the solstice celebration continued, wolves dancing, singing, celebrating the longest night of the year. But for us, it wasn't the longest night. It was the first night of everything that came after. Epilogue. 1 year later. The council chamber was full of arguing alphas. Again. I sat beside Daemon on the dual thrones, his idea, not mine, and tried to follow the debate about border territories and trade agreements and a dozen other things I was still learning. "Luna Queen," Elder Raymond said, pulling my attention back. "You've been quiet. What's your opinion on the Northern Ridge proposal?" A year ago, being asked my opinion in front of 20 alphas would have made me want to disappear. Now, I straightened in my throne and spoke clearly. "Oh, I think the proposal has merit, but the timeline is unrealistic. Northern Ridge is asking for territory access they haven't earned yet. I suggest a probationary period, 6 months where they prove they can maintain peaceful relations with neighboring pacts. Then we revisit the full proposal." The alphas murmured, some nodding in agreement. "A wise compromise," Raymond said, and I could hear the genuine respect in his voice. "The Council accepts the Luna Queen's suggestion." Daemon's pride flooded through our bond, warm and constant. After the meeting, we escaped to our private quarters, the ones in the palace that we'd made our own over the past year. "You're getting good at this," Daemon said, pulling me into his arms. "I'm getting better. Still have moments where I want to hide under the throne instead of sitting on it." "That's what makes you a good queen. You remember what it's like to feel powerless, so you fight for the wolves who still are." He was right. We'd spent the last year implementing changes, laws protecting wolves from abuse, programs supporting orphaned pups, initiatives helping wolves who'd been exiled or rejected by their packs. Every policy was informed by my own experience of being unwanted and invisible. "Speaking of powerless," I said, pulling back to look at him, "I have news. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective." I took his hand, placing it on my stomach. "I'm pregnant." Daemon froze. Through the bond, I felt shock, joy, terror, and overwhelming love all crash into him at once. "Pregnant. We're going to have a baby, doctor." Suzanne confirmed it this morning. About 6 weeks along." 6 weeks, and you're just telling me now?" "I wanted to be sure. And I wanted to tell you in person, not through the bond where you'd feel it before I could actually say it." He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against my stomach. "A baby. Our baby. Are you happy?" Terrified, ecstatic, completely unprepared. He looked up at me with shining eyes. "When my mother died, I thought I'd never have a family of my own. Never have someone to pass the crown to who actually wanted it. And now you're stuck with me and whoever this little one turns out to be. Best prophecy ever," he said, standing to kiss me properly. Through the bond, I felt his absolute certainty. We'd survived impossible odds, we'd saved each other, so we'd built a life together that neither of us had thought possible, and now we were creating new life, a child who would grow up knowing they were wanted, valued, loved unconditionally, a child who would never have to earn their worth because it would be given freely from the start. "What if I'm a terrible mother?" I asked, old fears surfacing. "What if I don't know how to—" "You'll be extraordinary, just like you are at everything else once you stop telling yourself you can't do it." He pulled me closer. "And when you doubt yourself, I'll be there to remind you, just like always." "Promise?" "Promise." We stood there in our chambers, holding each other, feeling the bond hum with contentment and the tiny spark of new life growing between us. I'd started this year as nobody, a bastard hidden in kitchens, as convinced I was broken and unworthy. I was ending it as Luna Queen, a wife, soon-to-be mother, leader of a kingdom. But more than that, I was myself. Fully, completely, unapologetically myself. And that was the real magic of the prophecy. Not that it gave me a mate or a crown or power, but that it forced me to find the worth I'd always had, but never recognized. I was Lyra Whitehead, Luna Queen, survivor, fighter, and I was exactly where I was meant to be. If Lyra's journey from nobody to I Choose Me gave you chills, please don't forget to subscribe to join thousands who believe self-worth is the first step to everything else. Because you can't be chosen by the right person until you choose yourself first. Epilogue. 6 months later, Faye's monthly summit has become the model for territorial governance across North America. The council voted unanimously to confirm her authority, with even Raymond Mackenzie grudgingly admitting she'd exceeded minimal expectations. Her apartment has been replaced with a house on the outskirts of the city, plenty of room for 4 people and the occasional wolf who needs to stretch their legs. Donna visits every Sunday for dinner, has mastered the art of cooking for shifter metabolisms, and is currently dating a beta wolf from Garrett's pack. "What?" she'd said when Faye raised her eyebrows. "You're not the only one who gets a supernatural love life." Timothy handles territorial administration with quiet competence. Ernie has started a program teaching newly activated shifters control techniques, or his natural charisma making him perfect for working with terrified teenagers discovering their wolves. Clayton serves as primary security coordinator, his tactical mind essential for managing the rogue threats that still emerge. And Faye? Faye splits her time between nursing — she couldn't give it up entirely, the pull to help too strong — and alpha duties. It's exhausting. It's complicated. It's nothing like the life she imagined. It's perfect. She stands in her kitchen now, a real kitchen, twice the size of her apartments, with a massive island perfect for packed dinners, watching Timothy cook while Ernie sets the table and Clayton reads the news on his tablet. The bond hums between them, comfortable and familiar after 6 months of constant connection. She knows Timothy is planning to propose making their bond official in human terms. She can feel his nervous anticipation. Knows Ernie has been sneaking cookies from the jar when he thinks no one's watching. Knows Clayton is reading reports about a potential rogue pack 3 territories away and calculating whether they need to intervene. Her phone buzzes. A text from Marion. "Council meeting next week. They want to discuss expanding your summit model internationally. Prepare to be annoyed by bureaucracy." Faye smiles, typing back. "Looking forward to it." "Dinner in 5, Timothy announces. "I'll get the wine," Ernie offers. "I'll help," Faye says, following him to the cellar. Halfway down the stairs, Ernie stops, turns, pulls her into his arms. "Happy?" Absurdly. "Good." He kisses her forehead. "You deserve it. As all of it." "We all do." Through the bond, she feels Timothy and Clayton's awareness, their affection radiating even from 2 floors away. 3 frozen wolves at her window. 1 impossible choice. A bond that defied logic, and a love that transcended every boundary she'd ever known. Faye Shields didn't ask to be a prime alpha, but she wouldn't trade it for anything. She's finally, completely, perfectly home.